Welcome to the Disadvantaged Communities Advisor Group's March 20th, 2026 meeting. I'm Julia Hatton, she, her pronouns, and I'm the chair of the DACAG. I hope you are having a meaningful Women's History Month. And to that point, I want to recognize one of our DACAG members tonight, who was awarded the Woman Making a Difference Award in Orange County, along with receiving an additional certificate of recognition from the city of Irvine. So it was wonderful to see you getting your flowers tonight. Congratulations. Before we do a roll call, just a quick reminder, Senate Bill 544 requires members of the DACAG who are participating remotely to remain visible on camera. If you are having challenges with internet connectivity during this meeting or preventing you from being visible to other members and the public, you must publicly announce the reason you are off camera as soon as possible. With that, we will proceed to roll call. I will read the names one by one. Chelsea.
Aye.
Hi, Chelsea. Chris.
Here.
Hi, Chris. Elena.
Here.
Elena. Fred. Don't think Fred is here. Jem. I saw Jem. I thought, yeah, I'll come back to Jem. Julia here. Roman is probably coming a little later. Sarah. Sarah's here tonight.
Here.
Hi, tonight. And Councilmember Vasquez.
Here.
Hello, welcome. Okay, that means we have quorum, but it does look like we need someone to take minutes while Sarah is not here. Do I have a volunteer for that?
I can do it.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Okay, and if anyone joins that I missed, we will acknowledge them when they get here. Okay, that brings us to item 2, general public comment, and agency staff will provide meeting reminders and instructions for this agenda item.
Thank you, Julia. Hello, everyone. My name is Zara Jamshid. I use they, them pronouns, and I am support staff for the DACAG and a senior equity analyst at the CPUC. Joining us today are our colleagues, Dorothy Marini and Francisco Hernandez. We're also joined by legal support from Renee Webster Hawkins and Rachel Schuen, as well as CPUC legal support, Vanessa Baldwin, who will be joining us shortly, as well as CEC Public Advisor Ryan Young. A few reminders. This meeting is being recorded and is being held both remotely and in person. Our DACAG meeting lead, Julia, is facilitating today and will conduct roll call votes for items that the DACAG is voting on to ensure a clear record. We've enabled WebEx's closed captioning feature to make this meeting more accessible. To use the closed captioning, please click on the bottom left CC icon or press Control-Shift-A. Once captions are turned on, attendees can click the icon with the 3 dots for more options at the bottom right to view captions, the full transcript. The chat feature is not available to attendees and is solely for panelists to ask technical, procedural, or legal support questions. Now to instructions for public comment. This public comment period is an opportunity for attendees to give comments regarding any matters related to the DACAG or today's agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and 1 speaker per organization. We'll show a timer on the screen and alert you when your time is up. All comments will become part of the public record. Please let us know if you would like to make a comment so we can call on you. For those online, please use the raise hand feature that looks like an open palm. For those joining by phone, press *3 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute. I see 1 raised hand. from Emma Searson. You should be able to unmute and give your comment.
Thank you so much. Hello, all. My name is Emma Searson. That's EMMASEARSON. I'm the Managing Policy Director for Grid Alternatives. At last month's DACAG meeting, I provided informational comments regarding a proposal from Energy Division to end collections for the Disadvantaged Communities Single-Family Solar Homes, or DACSASH, program as of July 1st of this year, which was filed in the open rulemaking on customer-generated renewables for priority communities. Today, I'd like to provide a brief update on progress in that rulemaking and opportunities for engagement. As a quick reminder, the DACSASH program was established in 2018 by the CPUC in response to legislative direction to ensure continued growth of customer-sited renewables in DACs, and the Commission determined that the program would continue through 2030 with an annual budget of $10 million. The staff proposal to end collections for this program in 2026 would result in an early program sunset and the loss of access to no-cost solar and deep energy bill savings for the low-income households in DACs that are served by the program. Initial comments on this proposal and other possible program modifications were due in late February, and reply comments were due earlier this month. Each of the three main investor-owned utilities, one community choice aggregator, the Public Advocate's Office, Grid, as well as our tribal affiliate organization, Tribal Energy Alternatives, several solar industry voices, and a few additional environmental and justice-focused organizations weighed in with comments. The vast majority commented in support of the program and did not recommend early termination. Parties now await a proposed decision and anticipate another opportunity for comments and response once that is issued. My understanding is that advisory groups, including the DACAG, have the ability to provide written recommendations to commissioners or commission staff at any time, including in regard to active proceedings. So given this group's unique role as representatives of the needs and interests of DACs, its mission of ensuring that DACs benefit from California's clean energy programs, and the direct impact that an early end to the DACSASH program would have on those very communities, I respectfully encourage you all to consider exercising this ability to help secure the future of the DACSASH program. Your input, should you decide to recommend the continuation of DACSASH through 2030 as planned in this open proceeding, could help make the difference and bring about a decision that allows the program to continue bringing the benefits of rooftop solar to low-income households and DACs for years to come. Thank you so much for the opportunity to comment today and for your time and consideration.
Emma, is there a timeline for the submission of that letter?
Thanks so
Or
much
is it
for
open?
asking. Yeah, I'm not aware of any timelines. We don't know a timeline for when a proposed decision will come out. So it's, kind of hard to guess when the best opportunity for input is. But I think even if a decision came out quickly and you all were still working on getting a letter in, it would still be a helpful response to a proposed decision. So I think any time in the near future would be useful.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see we have another raised hand on WebEx. Joaquin, you should be able to unmute and give your comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Joaquin Castillejos. I am a resident of the unincorporated community of Bloomington in San Bernardino County, and also an organizer with the Center for Community Action and Environmental Justice. I'm here today to bring up a concern that community members have had stemming from an outage that happened earlier this year on January 2nd that affected our community of Bloomington. And just to give some context here, we live in an area that has an unreliable grid where it's managed by Edison, and we experience frequent outages in our community. Sometimes they're planned and sometimes they're not, but On January 2nd, there was an unplanned outage. We got no warning, nothing, and it was pretty obvious that this was not planned by Edison as well. Like, it was an equipment failure, and a lot of members of the community had damages that went up to the thousands for some folks, losing full entire AC systems, fridges, a lot of important appliances for them, and they put in a claim with Edison. According to the website, if it's equipment failure, Edison is liable for that. Multiple folks, whoever could, put in a complaint. They claimed, they never got any response. So next, folks went to CPUC and submitted a utility complaint, and CPUC said that this was something that had to be um, figured out between Edison and its clients. And the reason I'm coming here today to this advisory group is because we're looking for someone to hold Edison accountable or to put more pressure on this issue. This is hundreds of people that have been affected. A lot of working class folks who can't make it to this meeting, but they wanted these comments to be made, and they wanted some type of justice to be had for all the damages that they're experiencing, and yeah, I hope that this committee, this advisory group, is able to you know find out what's going on with you with this issue. Why is it not being resolved, and why isn't any community members getting an answer? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joaquin. Is there anyone, I guess I should see if there's any more public comment, and then I've got a question for the group.
I don't see any more raised hands on WebEx.
Okay. So I think regarding the support letter for Jack Sash, I would recommend that that's something that this group submit. I'm happy to take the lead on drafting something that could be voted on and approved at the next meeting. Regarding Bloomington, I'm wondering if there's anyone on the call who could either speak to Joaquin directly or follow up with him afterwards, or recommend someone that he can talk to help get answers for his community.
And for the notes, can we confirm that Joaquin was with CCAEJ?
That's what I wrote down as well.
Thank you.
Any agency staff who might be able to follow up with him?
Joaquin, if we have your email, we can follow up with our consumer protection folks here at CPUC.
Is he still on?
May have dropped. He raised his. Oh, great. Hi, Joaquin. Can you let us know what your email address is, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. How do I can I put it into the chat? It says it's off right now.
Well, we can send you our email so you can be able to send something to us. With that, I think that'd
Okay.
be
Yeah,
Okay.
I could do it.
Great. Just put the DACAG. Yeah, I'll put the DACAG email in the chat.
Go ahead, Alina.
Can we ask for a follow-up on how the issue is resolved from the PUC?
I would love that. Yeah, we'd love to hear what the conversation and follow-up and solution is.
Yeah, I'll flag that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That brings us to item 3. We will take opening remarks by CEC and CPUC leadership. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the commissioners joining us today. I'm going to start with the CEC. I don't believe Commissioner Gallardo is here.
Commissioner Gallardo will be joining us a little bit later on.
Great, and looks like same with Commissioner Skinner.
I believe so. Commissioner Gallardo is traveling, so she'll be she's trying to get connection,
Okay.
but she's eager to join us. Yeah.
Okay. Great, and I see, Jem, that you've joined us, so we'll note that in the minutes. Welcome. CPUC, Commissioner Douglas.
Hi, good afternoon. I am glad to be able to join. As always, you've got a couple interesting items on the agenda for me, so I hope to be listening throughout the meeting, and also just want to reiterate the offer that if and when there are proceedings that the DACAG is interested in the CPUC bringing in a presentation on or preparing some discussion on, of course, we're open to doing that and working with you on it. So I just wanted to reiterate that invitation, and I'm just glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And is Commissioner Houck here? Okay, maybe she's joining later as well. Great. I'm going to take us then. Oh, anyone else any other leadership or staff who want to provide any opening remarks? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move us to meeting minutes. We're going to try to approve the February 2026 meeting minutes. Do we have any public comment on the February 20th minutes that are going to be pulled up on the screen shortly?
Hi, everyone. This is an opportunity for public comment on item 4. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and 1 speaker per organization. We'll show a timer on the screen and alert you when your time is up. All comments will become part of the public record. Please let us know if you would like to make a comment so we can call on you. For those online, please use the raise hand feature that looks like an open palm. For those joining by phone, press *3 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute. I do not see any raised hands in the chat. So back to you, Julia.
Okay, thank you. Any DACAG member discussion on the minutes? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
That sounded like Elena. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Was that Councilmember Vasquez?
Mhm.
Wonderful, thank you. I will now take a roll call vote. Please say aye if you are in favor, nay if you oppose, or you can indicate if you abstain. Chelsea.
Aye.
Thank you. Chris.
Aye.
Thank you. Elena.
Aye.
Thank you. Fred is not present. Jem.
Aye.
Thank you. Julia. Aye. Roman is not present. Sarah is not present tonight.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Vasquez.
Aye.
Thank you. With that, the item passes. All set, Chris, on the notes, the minutes?
Yep.
Great. Okay. We are now turning to our first substantive item, item 5. This is going to be revisiting the energy disconnections and reconnections rulemaking that we got a presentation on at our last meeting last month. We didn't quite have the chance to ask questions and have some Q&A about that. So we're going to take the time now, since it's an important topic that we've flagged as a priority. We are going to first get a very brief reminder of what we talked about at the last meeting, and then we can hopefully spend the majority of the time on discussion. So I'm going to welcome back Paul Phillips, Isaac Tong, and Kit Jane from the CPUC to present this item. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us back. Feels like it was just yesterday. I have a few updates to slides that we did walk through last time and condensed some of the information as well. And I think it might be worth flying through, maybe 4 or 5 of these slides to kind of just provide a little refresh and some grounding in some of the principles that we're working with here before we get into the discussion. So next slide, please. And I'll try to be brief. Next slide. So just as a reminder, and I think we're going to spend more time in the front end of the stack than the back end, but we currently have arrearages statewide that are hovering right around $2 billion and have for the past 6 months to a year. I would say that between 750 and 850 million between PG and Edison, the big two of the 4 major investor-owned utilities. So around 800 million each average. So that's the bulk of it. And then you have San Diego Gas and Electric and SoCal Gas hovering around 400 million together in that arena, and closer, I think, especially for SoCal Gas, a bit closer to their pre-pandemic baseline arrearages than the other 3 utilities. I mean, San Diego proportionately is about 20% of the arrearages of, or a little bit more than 20%, maybe 25 of the big 2 utilities. So that's not surprising. The electric utilities seem to have a little bit more difficulty in managing arrearages compared to SoCal Gas. There are sort of structural reasons for that we don't need to discuss in depth here, but just wanted to provide some detail there. Procedural next steps. We did hold a workshop on March 11th, as some of you are aware. A very productive discussion. We've always had really great workshops in this docket and this proceeding, and this was no different. Really great to see some people in person and discussing 3 really key areas of intersection and overlap: whether to raise disconnections, rate caps, and if so, by how much and during what kind of a controlled glide path or time period. Number 2, whether to allow the existing pilot programs, and this is the harder question, I think, AMP, PIP, and the CBO pilot to sunset over the next year. Just as a reminder, I think I mentioned it last time, I think the CBO pilot is slated to sunset by the end of April of this year. And then with PIP sometime in October of this year, and then AMP, I believe, February of next year. So whether to sunset these programs, whether to extend them, modify them, make them permanent, address program structural issues, and there's a lot to discuss there. So I expect a lot of questions here today. Third, any other issues that are remaining beyond the scope of the work of this proceeding, things like whether data collection efforts should continue around arrearages and payment plans and disconnections, whether annual reporting should continue and the like. And so there's how do we continue to integrate lessons learned from this proceeding into the work of disadvantaged community policy in general. Parties are going to submit comments on the workshop and questions on March 25th and reply comments on April 1st. So we'll have a lot of feedback after a really robust discussion, and we are considering potentially a public participation hearing as we get closer to wrapping up this proceeding, and then maybe an all-party meeting to kind of button everything up and finalize before we draft a proposed decision. Whether we get that out in June or July is a question mark at this point, but we're at least heading in that direction. Next slide, please. And not much to report on here. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but just I did kind of consolidate some of the information here. I think I reported a little bit of potentially not controversial, but questionable dollar data with regard to the RUBA uncollectibles balancing accounts for the utilities. I think some of the one or more of the dollars for the 2 utilities, for 2 of the utilities, I think was a little bit stale. So just suffice to say that, giving you a little bit of information here about how the disconnections rate caps look for large and small utilities, and also just giving some information on, how the utilities feel about these caps and how they'd like them lifted, but also the sorts of that we do track and monitor the uncollectibles that are socialized through the system when we do write off bad debt as a result of arrearages not being collected, depending on the age of those arrearages, the accounts receivable. So that is just another tension that we have to balance here as we think through the pace at which we lift the caps in order for the utilities to be able to better manage arrearages going forward. The tension being that if we don't lift the caps, that we're at risk of higher uncollectibles balances being socialized across the entire system, but particularly residential ratepayers getting hit a little bit harder by that. Next slide, please. And I'll be wrapped up by 1:30, by the way, on this review of the slides. Just data still here, nothing changed, but just you have the residential arrearages statewide. That gives you the overview, the trajectory over the last 6 years or so. Next slide. And same thing with the next slide. I think we didn't do any major changes other than to say, we did extend the graph through January of 2026. So it's much more current. It's more current than I think it was going through December of last year previously. So it's nice to see that we have the current situation. Also interesting, I'm noting the crossing of SoCal Gas and San Diego Gas and Electric there toward the end. I didn't realize that until now. So that's an interesting trajectory. Next slide, please. And then really for your own edification to take with you, there's more data now here in this slide deck around monthly disconnections in graphical form. You'll recall that I had kind of some frankly clumsy looking tables that didn't give you the visual that this does. So this is nice to take with you. It shows how it zeroed out during the moratorium, not surprisingly during the pandemic, and then kind of sprouted back up in as the credit cycle began anew in late 2022 and continues today and kind of goes up and down. So you have that across, that's for PG&E alone. You have every utility broken out across these slides. I'm not going to walk through all of them, but just giving you the visuals. You can advance, I think, 3 more slides. We'll see. Yeah, and 1 more. So that's all 4 utilities covered for the disconnections data. You can take a look at that. We have monthly broken payment plan data in graphical form now. Just so that really only over the last year, we were unable to, I think it was going to require some manual digging up of actual data to go back in the years past to show you the longer trajectory of broken payment plan data, but we thought at least this gives you a sense of the most recent trend lines for each of the major, for non-care, care, and non-FARA, excuse me, medical baseline, and then the totals. And this is going across statewide. So, or I'm sorry, for PG&E, and then for SCE. So that's not broken out very well here, but PG&E on the left, Edison on the right, by customer segment. And then you've got that for the other 2 utilities as well. So why don't we skip ahead 2 more? 1 more. And 1 more. Okay, just a few new insights here regarding the AMP evaluation that I think tightens up with better numbers, the findings that the evaluation report provided. I'm skipping down really to the negatives here. The positives remain the same. I don't think we made any changes there, but down at the negatives, just wanting to highlight that 15 to 20% of participants had arrearages forgiven in total. So just as a clearer demarcation of that, 37 to 46% had most arrearages forgiven. That's more than 75%, more than 75% of their arrearages forgiven. And then 40 to 50% of AMP participants were estimated to have less than half of their arrearages forgiven. So really kind of a mixed bag. And as I think I indicated last time, the AMP program went through some fits and starts in the beginning in my estimation. And I think some of that had to do with maybe some of the cross communications around the moratoria and the cap funding. And, I think payments and maybe even just in the scripts that were being used by the utilities to some extent to communicate to customers, how they were doing on the AMP program. So it feels like it has gotten shored up over the past year or two, that performance is a little bit better. And these numbers do look a little bit better to me than what we were looking at maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So somewhat encouraging. And we did have a robust discussion about AMP in general with regard to how it might be improved through modification and maybe carry forward, but we have some decisions to make there. Anything else here? So the costs for the utilities to perform needed engagement were significant. So it's really worth highlighting. I don't want to short shrift the amount of work and dollar amounts that went into the actual engagement. But even with that engagement, it was like 3 to 9% of the total cost of the program was revolving around that engagement. I think there's always a question there though, of like, do we have the right engagement? Is there anything that can be done to effectuate better engagement? So I think that's a relevant question. Okay, next slide, please. And then just nothing changed on the PIP pilot and what we reported last time. And I think this is basically it. So I'm going to stop here. It is 1:30, and I think it's probably wise to turn it over to discussion. But if you do have questions just about the basics, we can always go back to some of these slides if you want to refer back to them in your discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you providing that recap. I'm going to turn it over to DACAG members for discussion.
Wait, first, I see Commissioner Houck has joined us.
Oh, hi, Commissioner
Would you
Houck.
like to make any opening remarks, Commissioner?
Just that I apologize for being late. I just have a couple of time-sensitive issues that all converged on each other this afternoon. But I think this is an important presentation, and just to restate what may have already been said, we had the workshop on the disconnections and the programs that Paul just went over with you. There's a number of questions that we want parties to respond to. The timing for today's workshop, today's meeting and next month's meeting, there is time if you do decide you want to provide a letter or a more formal comment for us to consider. And that was one of the reasons we wanted to bring it back to present to you, to make sure you had that time. We are, after we have all the responses from comments, we are looking to try and issue a proposed decision to address some of these really challenging issues. So getting your feedback would be really helpful and important for us.
That's really great to know. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, I'll turn it over to my fellow members.
I can kick us off. Hey, Philip, thank you for coming back and for the additional work you did, especially graphing disconnections. It's helpful to see it in that way. So thanks for that. I'm just curious if I'm missing something fundamental about the program logic model for AMP. Is the basic idea that if you pay your bill on time, we'll forgive some or all of your arrearages. And if that's
right. Yeah, it's sort of like meeting you halfway. So if you pay it, stay on time, stay current with your bill, we'll cover up to $8,000 in arrearages by half. As you pay half of your. You can go back one slide just to show. Actually, maybe two slides. Actually,
yeah, that would be helpful.
Just as a reference. I confess it had been a while since I'd looked at the rubrics of the actual program. Yeah, it's right. One more. There you go. That's perfect. Yeah, so up to $8,000 in forgiveness per year for eligible care and fair customers for paying their monthly bills on time. So they can only miss up to 2 consecutive payments. That's the key, right? Or 3 non-consecutive before being removed from the program. And really early on, and again, I think some of this happened to be cross communication during an era, the COVID era, when people were not being expected to pay their bills and there was moratoria. That the AMP program did suffer, I think, a little bit with attrition as a result of missed payments. So yeah, this gives you the numbers of customers, and it was a 1 million customer pilot enrolled between 21 and 25.
2021 and 2025.
Yeah, over basically a 5-year program cycle. That's 1 million customers enrolled.
Yeah, I would expect from the science perspective that considering the period when there was a moratorium is probably skewing some data, but yeah,
sure.
I'd be curious to look at that more closely. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that I understood the program. It's not surprising to me that folks who would be least able to pay would also then later get kicked out of the program and not only not receive sort of arrearage forgiveness, but not be eligible to participate in the program again for, if I understood it correctly, indefinitely or at least some period, which, for folks least able to pay, that doesn't seem helpful or kind. So I think, yeah, there's definitely something to be examined in the program design there.
Agreed. Yeah. And, worth noting just for your earlier point with regard to the cross communications, the COVID era, just the different things going on, the cap funding. We did note, if it wasn't clear from the last discussion, that right after each tranche of cap funding each year, 21 and 22, January of each year, a giant upswing, another upswing in arrearages occurred immediately after the payments went out. So it's just, I think it's just more data evidence, to support your conclusion there, that there was just kind of a period of miscommunication and or cross communications in a sense that maybe relief was on the way or was there in full, and were people really feeling urgently needing to, or were they able to pay their bills? So there's a lot to be unpacked there. It's a tough question to answer with regard to the psychology behind all of that. Any other questions?
I can jump in. I was wondering whether you did any analysis of the households or the seasons associated. I was trying to take a look at this sort of, I think it was seasonal disconnections, but I was thinking of like the non-payment for like when people drop out of the bridge management plan. Did you get a sense of regions, of household type? Was it renters? Or also like, did it happen after a really large bill? Would there be like any kind of like bill smoothing or something like that that could help out? Anyway, wondering if you could tease that out to get a sense of who's dropping out and who isn't.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that was something that we did talk a little bit about during the workshop on March 11th, which was, could there be an element of the AMP program in which we're instituting a smoother payment plan, right? And sort of a levelized bill payment plan? Is there something seasonal for some or all of our customers, where, like, summer's obviously peaking in terms of, if you have high air conditioning needs in the Central Valley, in some of the hotter climate zones, we know regionally that tends to be a problem area for lower income, disadvantaged communities. And so that's not surprising. We do track by zip code, kind of the number of disconnections over time. That was what helped to inform the CBO pilot as well, was kind of like isolating geographically hot spots in California where the relief might be needed most, and targeting it. Also using some of our affordability ratio tools to isolate those customers. So definitely we've done a little bit of analysis about that. We had a productive discussion with utilities during the March 11th workshop about the potential for levelized payment planning features within AMP that might be instituted that are either not currently available or not widespread. And so, great question. I think that's something very much worth diving into. In other words, I don't think we're giving up on AMP. I think there's signs of, I don't think we should view, per your comment and Mr. Walker's comment, I don't think we should view AMP as not a successful program by virtue of the numbers that we're seeing. It could feel that way, but when you're talking about, are we talking about failure rates that are due to a structural affordability problem, or is there something else going on here? And I think that's really the question of the day that's hard to tease out. And just to address another aspect of your question, we don't currently have the granular data of, at the income level. We don't have that kind of access to customer data. So we do our best to kind of track things through in the aggregate through affordability ratios and the like. That was kind of like an adjunct to the affordability rulemaking that we just closed not that long ago. So
just a quick follow-up on that. Affordability, does that take household size into account?
It does. I think it does not, actually. It takes household income and Anka, Jane, feel free to jump in here if I'm missing something. It's been a while. We did have an affordability ratio calculator tool that leveraged statewide data around incomes and around housing affordability, I think, as sort of separate exogenous streams that help to inform the ratio, but not individual household sizes, just the kind of the decile arrangements income, and the 20th percentile was kind of our target in terms of looking at where that threshold was appropriately set for lower income folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a big gap when you're talking about affordability, is taking household size into account as it relates to income.
100%. Yeah. And just on that note, it's a sidelight, but it is relevant. It's related that, you know, the affordability work does continue. There's, you know, still work to be done around the development of an income verification tool that has been workshopped over and over again, and in the process of being developed. I feel like that's really been a sidelight of the income graduated fixed charge development process. I just wanted to, you know, make sure that folks were aware that we are very aware, painfully, that there are a number of folks that hover above low income eligibility, right, that are getting shunted into the upper tier base services charge or income graduated fixed charge right now, just by virtue of the easy setup that we had to fall back on and getting that rolled out, you know, at the break points of income qualification. And so once we have a more robust system of income verification, my sense is that there are a number of people who will get a break on their bills by being placed in the middle tier that currently exists. It does not have a lot of people in it currently, but it's FARA eligible customers. And so that is something I think that will be a rate design tool that we can help to offset some of the pain of affordability. And particularly as you think about future iterations of that charge, putting more and more fixed costs burden into the upper tier and like cutting more of a break to the lower to middle tier. So anyway, we hope that that is something that provides relief in the future. Just wanted to put that on the horizon for you.
Thank you, Paul. Councilman?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's the kind of the questions I was thinking of as far as what's the ease of process to get enrolled? Is it like the missed payments are the thing? And I know the data is somewhat skewed as well too, because a lot of people during the end of 2021 were still home and active, and of course the home size of you know, whether they're kids or not, or people at home all durations of time, and I guess kind of the seasons as well that got brought up. I think those are all indicators that we have to look for in order to have a more robust, I guess, enrollment process for some of these folks that are kind of missing out on this. So I do, I definitely see the value in this, and hopefully this AMP program doesn't go away. I want to make sure that it's accessible to people. I know the earning demographic, it would bear on that as well. So yeah, definitely. Of course, there's a lot of questions. All the people that are disadvantaged or, you know, have those hardship. I know they're working hard and they're trying to make it work. And it'll be good to see a little bit more data when you guys have that as well.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that comment. I think it's really hard when you're limited by sort of confidentiality and income,
of course,
you know, income related data and the like. But you make a very good point, and I think Julia said sort of the same thing earlier, which is you just don't know if you're talking about a Stockton household of 6 or 7 or 8. And we did track the shift during COVID from commercial to residential usage. We actually had that data coming in monthly separately from this process, and it was really shocking. I mean, again, hard to isolate by household size, but we just don't have it at that level of granularity or confidentiality. But it really is eye-popping back then how much people were reliant on their residents for energy needs, right? And then you have kids home from school, and you have many folks in one household. Yeah, it really is very, very skewable in that direction when you think about those special situations.
And so kind of like the opt-in process of like how folks, did it tend to be more of like the missed payment to get enrolled, or was it kind of enrollment automatically after missing a few payments and having an extra stock on the back end? I'm sorry for my lack of education on the AMP program. I will get myself up on that as well.
No, that's okay. And I think when you think about AMP, it's also maybe important to think about the bigger landscape around payment planning in general for the utilities. And I think, you know, we've done everything, I think, in this proceeding to make it as easy as possible for folks to get re-enrolled in some kind of payment plan, and institutionalizing a 2-year payment planning cycle such that it was smoothing out some of the billing in arrears, you know, for some of these customers. And I think that just in general, beyond the AMP program, what the utilities would tell you is that from their perspective, They feel that not having sort of a reconnection fees, some skin in the game to start winding down some of the billing to get it more current, and then customers not making their payments on time, regardless of whether we're talking about AMP specifically or just a general 2-year payment cycle, was really just, it is a culprit. It is something that is ongoing. And I can't remember exactly, but I want to say maybe 13% of accounts statewide, or at least for one of the utilities, was in that kind of space of just, folks getting recycled through payment planning, but not having a lot of progress toward paying down existing debts, right? And getting current with their bills. And so from their perspective, they feel like, well, administratively, it's difficult to keep processing through these billing payments and then having people bounce and then come back and, without making the progress. Of course, they're worried about their bottom line. They're worried about the cash on hand and their balance sheet. That's probably not as big of a worry here, and nor should it be. But it is that other tension, though, that I mentioned earlier that I think is worth keeping in mind, that the more arrearages there are on the books, the more likely the higher levels of uncollectibles start getting socialized with all of us. And that number has been coming up over time. It is probably in a steady state now that things have evened out around $2 billion statewide over the past 6 months or so, as I was showing earlier. But these are great questions, and trying to think about it holistically, but wanted to give you that kind of backdrop about what payment plans are doing for the utilities and how folks are not really that successful on them in that category of customer.
Thank you.
Great. Let's just take a couple more minutes on this. Jem had a question, and then Elena, and then I've got a couple more, and then I think, unless there's anything else burning, we'll move on to the next.
Yeah, if I am a SoCal Gas customer and I get behind and I opt into this program, does it automatically, and I'm an SCE customer, does it automatically put me in that program for 2? Or, and then if I default, does it only affect like that specific utility? How does that work?
I'm sorry, could you restate that question? Are you asking whether
I'm just thinking, yeah, if I use SoCal Gas and I'm also an SCE customer and I decide to opt into this program because I need help with my bill, does it affect like maybe my SCE account, or how does that work? Or maybe I can use it for gas, and then maybe if I end up defaulting there, maybe I can use it for my electric, or how does that work?
I see. Well, again, for the AMP program, it's as you stay current with your bill, you receive that kind of meet me halfway benefit up to $8,000. And that's, in this pilot anyway, over 21 to 2025 was 1 million customers statewide across the 4 major utilities. So if it's SoCal Gas, for example, and you're not staying current on your bill, then yes, you may get bounced if you miss 2 payments from that program for SoCal Gas. It is not interchangeable between, say, your gas bill and your electric bill, if that's what you're asking. Those are separate split bill accounts. For some customers, you might get your gas service from SoCal and your electric from Edison or SDG&E, right, in Southern California. So they're all separate accounts, all needing to be maintained in terms of current status, is my understanding.
Okay, because it would seem like it would make sense that if I signed up for it in one, that maybe it would be flagged in another, so that we make sure that everybody's enrolled in the programs that they potentially could be. Does that kind of make sense, what I'm saying?
Just across the utility accounts, is that what you're asking? Would it make sense? I guess it would make some sense if you're a multi-utility gas electric customer. I mean, I can understand. I think from a billing system perspective, trying to administer that from each individual utility's perspective would be very difficult. They're not, SoCal Gas and SDG&E might be the closest companions. I mean, PG&E obviously serves gas and electric together, so it has a single billing system that can probably account for that. But that's mixed service or mixed utility service versus single utility service. So my answer is probably, my feeling is that it's probably not feasible to do that given the separate billing systems that they maintain across the utilities. But I don't want to speak with authority on that.
And I just have one more question. So if you, like, I live in the city of Colton, so I pay to the city of Colton for my electricity. but do they honor those same programs? Or like the city of Riverside or any of these communities that have, I mean, because
Municipal
ultimately they're getting,
utilities,
they're
right, like
getting their power.
SMUD or City of Riverside or, you know, LEDWP, probably have their own different programs, not things that we manage. We do not have jurisdiction over publicly owned utilities and municipals when it comes to rates, and so we don't. These are not programs that are available to those utilities here. You know, these are investor-owned utilities that we regulate, and small multi-jurisdictional utilities as well. So the big ones and the small ones. So Bear Valley, Liberty, Liberty Calpico, I should say, and Pacific Core. Those are the three major electric utilities and or combined utilities. And then there's a few small gas utilities mixed in there, like Alpine and Southwest Gas. So those are the only ones. They're all investor owned.
All right, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Elena?
Yeah, thank you. So a quick clarification question. The plot that you showed that had like a really low medical baseline customer number, was that disconnections or rearages? Or AMP?
I think
was
both,
that?
actually. I think both, but I think it was probably disconnections. But we can go back. Yeah.
I guess I was curious.
So I remember the table in my mind before we turned it into a plot, and it was very low for the on the disconnections. Yeah.
Well, I guess I was curious because it is so low, what that is from like a percentage standpoint. Like what percent of medical baseline customers, what percent of care households or fair households are getting disconnected? Because I don't really know what the total is.
Yeah, I was a little bit when I was kind of reviewing that data, because I hadn't looked at it in quite a while, at least the monthly, you know, data submissions by the utilities. I had not been down in the weeds on those in a while. So it was a little bit surprising to me that there were any at all for medical baseline, because it depends on, if you look at utilities, it's a little bit different. I think most of them are like zeroed out and should be. Percentage wise, I don't have it off the top, but I can tell you that earlier on in this proceeding, I remember looking into this data like right after COVID and seeing that care versus non-care was pretty evenly split with regard to the burden of disconnections. That may or may not still be true. And if anyone else on the call has information about that, let me know. But I think that was basically the trend that we were seeing, was almost a 50-50. And so there was a time, you might recall, I mean, the reason why this is relevant.
Like 50, sorry, what I mean is like the percent of care customers that is disconnected is the same percent of non-care customers that's disconnected?
I might be confusing my arrearages versus my disconnections on that. I think in arrears, the arrearages themselves. I don't know off the top. We can go back and look at those tables though that were in the previous slide deck, and that will give you a quick snapshot of like, you know, just eyeballing, or we can even run some calculations for you based on that data if you'd like, and send that separately.
Yeah, I'll follow up, I think, so we might be getting at least on the numbers.
That wouldn't be hard. That would be hard.
Okay.
No,
great.
Good
and okay, so I'll follow up because I'm curious, like, again, what percent of care customers are getting disconnected. The other question that I had is that there's the CBO program, and maybe I missed this. I was wondering what the impact of that is on follow through in AMP. Like, do we have outcomes from the CBO program?
So
in terms of whether or not that increased payments under AMP?
Whether it was more successful, whether it was helpful in getting people paid.
I saw that there was like a quote where the survey said yes, but I wasn't sure if there was like actual data on whether there was
and maybe, so that was sort of a midstream process evaluation. We're not doing a full review yet, and I think that review is, I can't remember exactly when that's due, but if the program is sunsetting in April, end of April, then there's going to be some ex post looks at exactly that. I don't recall in my review in that slide where we showed it, we can bring it back up, but I think in that slide it simply was survey data, right? It was only looking at how people felt to begin with, and then how they felt sort of midstream. Yeah, and in general, it is a successful program, and it leads me to believe that the AMP program is, that folks are surviving on AMP. Go further down, I think, to probably in the 20s. I'm sorry. Let's see if we have anything specific there. I don't think it breaks out for AMP performance underneath the CBO pilot, but other than just in the aggregate that things are better. So here you go. Okay, so that's the AMP evaluation. Keep going down to the CBO pilot. That's what you're asking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One more. Okay, and one more. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I don't think so. This is really just kind of getting into the setup of the pilot, right? The CBOs participating, how difficult that was to get them going, initial satisfaction versus later expectations, right? So it doesn't quite get into, as far as I know, it does not get into AMP performance underneath the full service model that the CBO pilot provides. But I do think that that's coming.
Okay,
I do think that that's coming. It's a great question, but yeah, and if I'm wrong about that and there is something in the evaluation, we can follow up with a separate email, along with the other stuff that you asked about. Yeah.
Great. When you do the evaluation for that, we'd love to see the AMP and disconnection numbers post.
I mean, I think it's safe to say that it's going to look better. I mean, I think we know that that's probably true. It's just a matter of to what degree. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks. I know that we are a little bit over time, but I was looking back at the presentation from our last meeting, and there were some key questions here, whether and to what extent to lift the caps, should AMP, PIP, and the CBO pilot be allowed to sunset without renewal? Should there be a working group to evaluate some of these issues and measures? Are those the questions that we should be addressing in a comment letter?
I think so. I mean, if there's a collective interest in doing that, and there's a strong opinion about how this should go, we would love to hear from
I would
you,
imagine that there is. I would imagine
yeah,
that
I think so, based on the conversation we're having. I'm feeling that, yeah.
And so I think it sounded like we had time to do that. So if someone is able to volunteer to look into this and to draft a letter that we could review and vote on at the April meeting, that would be fantastic. This feels extremely relevant to our work, and I think we should comment on it. Any volunteers? Thank you, Chris. All right,
I can second review if you'd like a second review.
Amazing.
Yeah, and Ramon too, actually, looks like, yeah.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you all so much. Okay.
And just something real quick worth keeping in mind as you contemplate what those comments look like. I would just say that, one thing that we discussed at the March 11th workshop was, what it would look like under some kind of a glide path towards slowly lifting or gradually lifting these caps to a certain ceiling. The utilities have reported to us, and I mentioned this last time, that they can really only operationalize somewhere around 8 to 10% of their total population in terms of disconnecting, managing those arrears toward disconnection at any given time. And I think there's just bottlenecks in terms of operational and billing and the rest administratively that makes that challenging. And so, and it just sort of equilibrates there. I don't know that we should necessarily trust them and just lift the cap entirely and assume that it's going to land at 9% or something. But it might be worth noting that the closer you get to that ceiling, I'm thinking just logically that these arrearages are going to be harder and harder to address, right? It's sort of like low-hanging fruit versus what's left. And so, I mean, each percentage upward might mean that they're getting less fruitful avenues out of, in terms of drawing down their arrearages in total, that it's easier now to go up toward that. But that as you start to get closer to a ceiling of, say, 8%, that you're going to see less and less, extraction of arrearage management at that level. So just something to keep in mind, and keep in mind the notion that a ceiling of some sort, or getting to a place that's manageable, while acknowledging the fact that there's still a number of customers that are very much struggling for affordability reasons that aren't being addressed right now, that are structural, and we have to acknowledge that. So I just wanted to describe that tension a little bit.
Yeah, I really appreciate that acknowledgement, Paul. And my last, hopefully quick question is just to help me understand. In the last presentation we saw, it says that PG&E, SCE, and SoCalGas all over-collected. So how does that interplay with this concept of arrearages and the idea that they're contributing to larger uncollectibles? How does that, those
Yeah.
things seem at odds to me.
Right, and you're referring to the previous slide deck from last time that had more information on the overcollections. Yeah, I think I was trying to clarify that a little bit in my earlier comments, that may have been not accurate data, some of it. So I don't want to. I think we would have to go back and look at their end of year filings, what the actual RUBA balances were looking like before we make a firm assertion that they were overcollecting or undercollecting it. I don't think that some of that data was fresh, so I apologize for that. But to the extent that it may be true, when they do overcollect, if they overcollect in a year, they can return some of that to customers in the form of essentially a credit. So it looks a little bit like a slight bill reduction, or for some folks. I think though that at the end of the day, though, the question is, given the speed of rate increases, is that going to matter a whole lot, right? They're just giving you a very small percentage back if they do in fact overcollect, but that's being subsumed within the, say, a January 1st or February 1st rate increase or a June 1st rate increase. These rate increases can occur throughout the year, as you know. So I just wanted to temper that, that if they do overcollect, and I don't know if that's addressing your question, but you're saying that's sort of at odds with.
Yeah, if they're overcollecting, then why are they worried about these uncollectibles?
Right, if they're overcollecting and then having to give it back. Yeah, I think generally there was just a concern, and I've seen some of these uncollectibles in the format of dollars per month per customer, and I think only PG&E may have done it in that format in some comments about 1.5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So, and at that time, we're talking fall of 24, I think PG&E was somewhere around $4 per month per customer, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it used to be that uncollectibles monthly were really kind of in the noise of the bill. They were really on the fringes of just not being that material to bill impact. So clearly there's been an uptick in the amount of uncollectibles that are being socialized through the residential class. So, that's a trade-off, right? That's a trade-off, that as we hold on to larger and larger amounts of arrearages, that the likelihood of higher amounts of uncollectibles can occur. There's another question in there, though, for the utilities as to whether they need to write off all of that debt at all, or whether some of that debt just goes away. So I think that's, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked and answered about the future of managing these issues, with the different mechanisms that we have available.
Speaks to maybe some of the larger structural issues that you're referring to. Okay. Thank you so much for coming back and being with us for two months here, and we will move on to the next presentation. Thank you.
Good to see you all. Thanks for the great questions. Talk soon.
Okay, item 6 is the Gas Research Development and Demonstration, or Gas RD&D program. This relates to our priority area of building industrial and gas system decarb, as well as clean renewable hydrogen, long-term planning, bunch of different things. So you can see that in the agenda. There's sort of a full description here that I'm going to welcome Emma Madronalda, Retta Di Mesa, and Aaron Resendez, as well as Paul Lynn, to present this item.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share some of these proposals. My name is Emma Madronalda, and I am the program lead for the Gas Research Development and Demonstration program here at the CPUC in the Energy Division. So today I'll be providing some context for the administrators who will present on their 2026 plan proposals. And we just kind of wanted to start up front and mention that this is a California gas ratepayer funded program. Next slide, please. So we'll start today also just clarifying our request to the DACAG. We'd like to provide this opportunity to provide feedback and help inform some of these investment plans. Cumulatively across the 3 plans that we'll be discussing today, the funding amounts to $50 million. the administrators will present plan concepts or kind of specific budget allocations, which we refer to as initiatives. The draft initiatives have been reviewed and informed by CPUC subject matter experts and the public. So I'll touch on kind of the process they've gone through so far and a bit more about CPUC's specific role in this kind of plan development process is to facilitate the consultation and ensure that administrators document and incorporate DACAG's feedback in advance of submitting their plans by June 1st this summer. Next slide, please. Thank you. And I wanted to provide a little more context here as well on kind of the subject matter, being innovative and emerging technology and solutions. We look at the state climate, energy, and equity goals as kind of like the overarching guidance. And there are a number of requirements for the administrators' plans and processes. So for one, they are required to consult with DACs and community-based organizations. There is also a need for these different budget allocations or initiatives to provide really clear ratepayer benefits. And what we focus on a lot is affordability and equity, kind of center to that discussion on benefits. For instance, PG&E is now required to adhere to the Environmental and Social Justice Action Plan, which we anticipate will be applied to the other administrators as well. Just touching again on CPUC's role as well, facilitating the consultation and also just guiding the overall development process, as well as the evaluation of the plans after they're submitted. As mentioned, they amount to about $50 million annually, with the Energy Commission being the largest program funded through the Public Purpose Program, whereas the two investor-owned utilities, Southern California Gas and PG&E, amount to the other approximately $25 million, funded by the general rate cases. So today we're going to be taking a look at all the proposals and providing kind of a holistic view across these three administrator programs. Next slide, please. So a bit more on our role and how we evaluate the plans that the administrators eventually submit. It really comes down to these key criteria here that have been pulled from current commission requirements. The first being aligning with CPUC proceedings and policies, making sure that we are kind of targeting the most pertinent and appropriate topics for gas ratepayer dollars to address. Second, the identified need. We consider needing to understand the kind of similar research and development activities that are taking place in a space that an initiative is being proposed in. In particular, the sister program to gas RD&D, the electric program investment charge, known as EPIC program, has been a key part of the consultation up to this point as well, really ensuring that a lot of efforts around decarbonization and electrification are being coordinated across the programs and continuing to kind of leverage work in previous years and in both programs, making sure we're building on that very clearly. The EPIC program has a specific strategic goal titled the coordinated role of gas that really speaks to that relationship and that need for coordination. The third criteria here, the proposed solution that we asked for the administrators to be very clear about is the kind of output that they would expect from the initiatives. So that could be a pilot or a study. And again, looking for kind of that pathway once there are results to lead to be applied kind of in further applications later on. Coming back to the ratepayer benefit, the anticipated impacts are something that need to be kind of articulated on the front end, and then later in reporting when the plans are being implemented, we also seek understanding of how those ratepayer benefits actually are delivered quantitatively. And then finally here, just kind of overarching, this program touches a lot of different disciplines, but we have generally sorted a lot of the proposals into kind of two key themes. The first being ensuring gas system integrity and strategic decommissioning efforts, being one of the large kind of funding buckets. So you'll hear the administrators present within that theme, gas system integrity. And secondly, decarbonization, all kind of decarbonizing efforts for the gas system and alternative energy sources. So gas system integrity and decarbonization are the way the proposals will be sorted today. Next slide, please. And again, just taking a zooming out and looking at this consultation and the plan development process as a whole, we have the administrators coordinate. This began in kind of late summer, early fall of 2025 to ensure that they were not, directly duplicating one another's proposals or any previous investments. And from that point in early December, there were there was a consultation group that was held with a number of CPUC subject matter experts across the EPIC program's strategic goals. So as I mentioned, one of the key goals is the coordinated role of gas. And we had an entire day dedicated to reviewing all of these proposals across the two programs. And our SMEs provided a high level of feedback that was then will be discussed today by each of the administrators at the initiative level. And most recently, at the end of February, the administrators hosted a first of its kind, completely coordinated workshop where all three administrators participated and brought the public in one coordinated setting for a holistic view. So I'll touch also on some equity panels that they held that were really effective. And again, a lot of the feedback that was shared during the workshop is something that will be detailed by administrators today at the initiative level. So today, they will be sharing their proposals informed again by CPUC SMEs and the public. And we have a focus really on ensuring ratepayer benefit, particularly for disadvantaged communities today. And the plans will be submitted by June 1st. And from that point, the CPUC will evaluate based on the initiative criteria I mentioned, as well as a number of other requirements. Next slide, please. So just the last couple of slides here, touching on the equity panels that were part of the public workshops the administrators held. Want to start by thanking Sarah Sharp for participating, today and in the equity panels that were held. There was also a member of the Physicians for Social Responsibility in Los Angeles, Alex Strassett, and the Green Lining Institute, Carmelita Miller. And with that, the next slide, my final slide, is touching on some of that high-level feedback that was provided by the public and particularly by those on the equity panel. So three themes stuck out to us. The first being wanting to advise on some of the key program investment priorities, again, touching on equity and affordability, particularly in the gas transition, needing to prioritize decommissioning as opposed to some operations and maintenance activities that would likely more appropriately be funded via other funding sources. We want to steer clear of kind of sustaining and reinforcing the existing gas system. Secondly, the need for transparency and accessibility of the data. So public access to information, really understanding where the ratepayer dollars are going, what they're leading to, what kind of outputs and impacts have been realized. There was also a call for the IOUs, or the investor-owned utilities, to issue competitive solicitations rather than seeking specific awardees, kind of in a deterministic process. So this is something CEC employs. The public would like to see the IOUs employ as well. And finally, the protection and prioritization of disadvantaged communities themselves. The vulnerable communities were identified as including workers, tenants, and frontline communities near gas facilities. The public expressed that they should be consulted on project siting to prevent exacerbating existing issues and inequities, and mentioned particularly a history of some projects being located near these vulnerable communities that had unknown impacts and outcomes. So really emphasized vulnerable communities not wanting to be kind of the guinea pigs in those senses. And the last point here, looking to target structural obstacles to reducing energy usage rather than behavioral change is often much more appropriate for vulnerable populations who are not as flexible on kind of their baseline needs for energy and gas usage. And with that, just the last slide is my contact information. Please feel free to follow up with any additional questions on the program as a whole. I'm the point of contact. And with that, I will pass it over to Retta DeMesa from the Energy Commission. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Can we go to the next slide, please? While we're doing that, it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm Retta DeMesa. I'm leading the development of our fiscal year 26-27 gas research budget plan here at the Energy Commission. I'm also joined today by several of our subject matter experts who are leading the development of the draft initiatives that I'll be presenting. Next slide. So just to get us started, I want to mention that the CEC has a long-standing commitment to equity, which we incorporate throughout our process. As you can see here, we are currently in the planning phase and developing research initiatives. At this stage, we prioritize engaging with environmental and social justice groups and tribes, which includes getting input from this group to help shape and refine our investment priorities before we finalize them for submission to the CPUC for approval. Next slide. And then I just wanted to briefly highlight how we coordinate with the IOU administrators. So we actively work together during both planning and implementation to align efforts, avoid duplication, and to identify opportunities for collaboration. This includes bi-monthly meetings, joint presentations, such as the public workshop that Emma had mentioned, and focused SME discussions during initiative development. And then during implementation, the IOUs often serve as project partners. That could include hosting demonstration sites, participating in our technical advisory committees, or providing match funding. This coordination helps to maximize the impact of research funding and ensures alignment across our programs. Next slide, please. So now we'll review the draft initiatives. These are not final and remain open to feedback with a focus on ratepayer benefits. So I'll provide a high-level overview today, but we're also happy to share more detailed workshop slides or to revisit any of these in more detail during the discussion. Next slide. So we currently have 6 draft initiatives under 2 themes that Emma had mentioned: gas system integrity and decarbonization. We also have preliminary funding amounts here that may change as the initiatives get finalized. For each initiative, I'll briefly describe the need and solution, summarize key feedback we've received to date, both from DACAG and CPUC SMEs, as well as ESJ panel feedback from the workshop, and then highlight how that feedback has helped to shape the initiatives. I do want to note we also held a tribal roundtable in February, and while we're not at liberty to share the details of the feedback that we received at that, it was considered when revising the proposed initiatives. Next slide, please. So our first initiative builds on the gas decommissioning pilots that are expected as a result of SB 1221, along with previously proposed gas R&D investments to help inform broader decommissioning across California. So this initiative would use the data and the lessons learned that's coming out of those pilots to develop practical guidance and protocols that would support broader decommissioning across different types of infrastructure, customers, and utility service areas statewide. The focus would be on optimizing decommissioning approaches that are cost-effective, equitable, and coordinated with electrification. Next slide. So looking at some of the feedback, feedback today has generally been supportive. The CPUC SMEs did request clear differentiation from existing work, a stronger rationale for using ratepayer funds, and then better defined affordability benefits. So that's something that we'll be sure to provide additional detail on when we develop the budget plan. Next slide. So our next initiative focuses on advancing health and equity in California's gas transition. As the state decarbonizes the gas system, there's a need for coordinated planning tools that can help identify how the transition can affect local health, affordability, and equity impacts, particularly in disproportionately impacted communities. So this initiative would have a few focus areas. First, it would develop a public-facing interactive tool to show how non-energy impacts like air quality and health, residential decarbonization. It would allow residents, policymakers, and local agencies to better understand how switching from gas to other cleaner alternatives affects household health outcomes and energy costs while accounting for factors such as income and housing characteristics. Second, it would create a novel scoring system for gas production sites across California. By integrating satellite data with ground-based measurements, the research would generate dynamic climate and environmental justice scores to identify locations where gas production poses the greatest risk to health, environmental justice, and climate. And then finally, building on some existing studies and previous research, the proposed work would develop low-cost methane sensors to improve regional methane tracking, to detect leaks and guide mitigation actions, especially in rural and underserved areas. Next slide, please. So looking at the feedback, DACAG and SME and ESJ feedback on this initiative has been generally supportive, with recommendations on areas where greater clarity would be helpful. So for example, it was noted that the initiative should more clearly reflect the consideration of both indoor and outdoor air quality, which we'll do. I also wanted to point out that the CPUC raised concerns about the connection to the last 10% goal and underscored the need for putting ratepayer benefits as the focus. They also recommended we coordinate with the California Air Resources Board to ensure that there's no duplication and that the initiative maintains that ratepayer focus, which we will do. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. So this next initiative focuses on reducing harmful industrial criteria air pollutants from California's most challenging sectors to electrify, for example, cement manufacturing. The goal is to improve local air quality, protect public health, and support California's broader climate goals. The key innovation here would be advancing co-pollutant removal technologies. It'll prioritize commercially viable solutions that can eliminate up to 90% of harmful pollutants, such as SOx, NOx, and particulate matter. It'll also generate data, analytical tools, and insights to inform future policy and planning. These efforts can provide near-term pollutant emissions reductions in communities most impacted by industrial pollution. They can also provide cost-effective pollution mitigation options for hard-to-electrify industries, while those longer-term decarbonization pathways, such as electrification, continue to develop. Next slide. So feedback emphasized that while electrification remains the preferred long-term pathway, timelines for some sectors may be longer, so near-term opportunities to reduce some of those harmful emissions may still be important. Concerns were raised about investing in refineries and prolonging fossil fuel use. Refineries were never intended to be included in this work, but we'll be sure to be more explicit about that. And then finally, we received comments that we should not be investing in carbon dioxide removal technologies. So to clarify, this initiative is really focused on industrial pollution reduction, particularly those technologies that can reduce those pollutants, as I mentioned, the SOx, the NOx, and the PM. While some of these technologies may fall within the broader carbon dioxide or carbon management solution areas, this research is really aimed at reducing harmful co-pollutants and improving local air quality. Next slide, please. So this next initiative focuses on seasonal storage and how it could support reliability as California's energy system transitions. As renewable generation increases, seasonal storage will be critical in balancing seasonal variability and maintaining reliability. At the same time, as electrification increases and gas demand declines, the cost of maintaining gas infrastructure could fall on a smaller, more vulnerable customer base. Since this initiative was last presented to DACAG SMEs, the scope has been revised. While the original concept focused on chemical methanation, Feedback prompted us to broaden the analysis to compare multiple seasonal storage technologies and evaluate them across a range of criteria in a California-specific assessment. As a result, this initiative will conduct a comprehensive system-level assessment of different seasonal storage technologies. It'll evaluate costs, emissions, infrastructure compatibility, safety, resilience, and equity impacts, with a focus on vulnerable communities. This includes opportunities to reduce long-term rate burdens and support an orderly, equitable transition. Overall, the results will help to identify cost-effective seasonal reliability solutions, reduce long-term infrastructure costs, avoid stranded gas assets, and support orderly gas system transition planning. Next slide, please. So as noted on the previous slide, one of the key changes that was made was broadening the scope from chemical methanation to evaluating multiple seasonal storage pathways. Additionally, CPUC SMEs recommended the research align with current integrated resource planning. So in response, we revised the scope to produce IRP-ready outputs and excluded hydrogen to ensure consistency with the IRD framework. Next slide, please. So this next initiative explores how waste heat from large facilities, such as data centers or other large waste heat producers, can be captured and reused to help decarbonize heating, cooling, and hot water in nearby communities. It focuses on thermal energy networks, which are systems that distribute heating or cooling from a central source to multiple buildings through a shared piping network. The innovation here is really looking to turn heat that would otherwise be wasted into a useful local energy resource. This initiative will support a study to assess the technical and economic feasibility of these systems and identify opportunities for deployments in California. These systems can improve energy efficiency, reduce strain on the electric grid, and lower infrastructure costs while improving affordability of decarbonized heating and cooling. Next slide, please. So DACAG SME feedback on this initiative was supportive, with a recommendation to track similar research underway in other states and to leverage those lessons learned, which we are doing. CPUC feedback resulted in better alignment with gas R&D priorities. Next slide, please. So our next and final initiative will evaluate different pathways for decarbonizing industrial process heat, one of the hardest parts of the economy to reduce emissions from. The industrial sector consumes roughly 1/3 of California's fossil gas, most of which is used to create process heat. At the same time, there's limited information available on the most viable clean heat options, especially for high temperature applications. And the gas planning OIR has also identified a need for better data to support long-term gas system transition planning, and industrial heat demand is an area where limited data is currently available. So this initiative would compare multiple technology options for meeting medium and high temperature industrial heat demands, including electrification, advanced nuclear technologies, clean fuels, and others. Looking across a broad set of technologies will help to identify trade-offs and determine which combinations may be most appropriate for different industrial settings. Next slide, please. And then, so looking at the feedback, so this concept initially focused on a paper study exploring the potential for advanced nuclear technologies to provide difficult to decarbonize industrial heat. Reservations were raised about the nuclear focus, even with it being a paper study, particularly regarding potential risks, community impacts, and benefits. That feedback was really helpful, and in response, we broadened the scope and better clarified the alignment with CPUC long-term gas planning and integrated IRP policies. So the initiative now looks at comparing multiple decarbonization pathways rather than focusing more narrowly on nuclear, including electrification, clean fuels such as biofuels and hydrogen, and carbon capture approaches that represent reliable and cost-effective heating alternatives. More recently, when we presented at the workshop, additional concerns were raised about including nuclear in that broader analysis that's now being proposed. Nuclear is still being included as one of the options being proposed in the research, but it is limited to a comparative study. And we want to note that deployment activities are not being proposed, and that the purpose is really to better understand the costs, risks, benefits, and community impacts of the different options, and to provide a California-specific analysis that can inform potential future policy and planning decisions. Also, as a number of other states move forward with advanced nuclear technologies like small modular reactors, this study can serve as an opportunity to help us track those developments, to learn from them, and to evaluate their relevance to California. Next slide, please. Next slide. There we go. So that actually concludes my presentation and the overview of the CEC's proposed initiatives. My contact information, along with some others, are captured there. But with that, I'll be happy to hand it over to SoCal Gas.
Great. Thanks, Retta. Hi, everyone. Next slide, please. My name's Paulin. I'm the SoCal Gas RD&D manager. And today I have the pleasure of walking through our research plan. I'll provide a preview of the portfolio and show where the dollars go. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the goal of our program is to fund practical innovation with a credible path to deployment. We're not trying to do research for research's sake. And it's ultimately aiming through discipline, innovation, and maybe even a little good fortune to advance technologies that have a meaningful impact on our customers and our communities. Next slide. Similar to CEC budget allocation, here is a chart that shows how we plan on allocating funds across the two different themes that Emma had mentioned, gas system integrity and decarbonization. We have a lot of initiatives, 8 initiatives to go over today, so I'll try to be concise, but also be able to provide meaningful information for feedback. As you can see across the 8 themes, our budget is about $19 million. And just for a little bit of context, in our 24 through 27 GRC, the revenue requirement is about $4 billion in 2024. So that equates to about under 0.5% for the RD&D portfolio. Next slide. So the first initiative I'll dive into is the Environmental and Safety Initiative, which is primarily focused on leak detection and leak prevention. So at SoCal Gas, we've really made a lot of progress under the natural gas leak abatement effort, where we've achieved 40% methane reduction. We've actually achieved our target of 40% methane reduction 5 years ahead of schedule. But even though we've made progress, there's still, we have a really big system, over 100,000 miles of pipeline, over 6 million meter sets. So there's still potential emissions that we want to make sure we capture. And when you think about the sheer scale of our company, we really need to challenge the traditional approaches to finding and repairing leaks. We want to figure out through RD&D ways that are faster, smarter, and more cost-effective in order to keep reducing those emissions and protecting, ultimately all of us, right, as ratepayers. So the solutions and benefits that we're targeting in this initiative is designed to bridge some of those gaps, or maybe to push the boundaries. One of our priorities is to evaluate state-of-the-art leak detection technologies that can cover large areas quickly and at a lower overall cost. The goal is pretty simple. We want to find leaks earlier, we want to be able to respond faster, and we want to prevent more incidents. So doing so reduces greenhouse gas emissions, improves safety, lowers inspection and maintenance costs by allowing us to work smarter as a company. So leak detection, while it's critical from a risk management standpoint, it's probably secondary to preventative risk mitigations. So in addition to leak detection, I want to focus also on leak prevention. And as we talk about leak prevention, this is about accessing data intelligently. We plan to integrate and analyze existing data sets that live on disjointed systems by bringing together the information kind of on the who and the what and the where. We can better understand and uncover reasons for why leaks occur and how they occur so that we can prevent them from occurring. This initiative also prevents leaks through design and failure mode mapping and consideration of alternative components. Can we go to the next slide? So some of the feedback that we received was that we should focus on the cross-administrator coordination and have clearer roles, considering community input. We do this by, I think overall, across all of our RD&D initiatives, we have shared foundations of knowledge. We're in constant communication, as I think Retta started to allude to. But this initiative is also about trying to apply SoCal, taking that foundational knowledge and then applying it specifically to our system conditions. And as I highlighted earlier, really focusing on kind of integrated data techniques. Next slide. Okay, this initiative is on system inspection and monitoring. I think I need to go a little bit faster. So I mentioned that our system is really big, right? 100,000 miles of pipe. So this is really core to the gas system integrity. How do we make inspection tools more accurate? How do we leverage inspection data to be more useful? How do we equip and support our field technicians to better serve our customers effectively? And the proposed solutions are to really focus on specific inline inspection tools where we feel like we can improve them further through different sensors that can meet additional inspection criteria. We want to, as many of us talk about, we want to leverage AI and machine learning to really connect disparate data sets maybe more efficiently than we have been able to do without the emergence of AI. We also want to further support field employees with system inspections using augmented reality tools. So trying to, again, be innovative in a way that can help our employees, help us manage the system, and ultimately help the ratepayers. This would improve reliability and efficiency of our operations, impact the number and duration of any service disruptions, and ultimately maintain customer rates. Next slide. There was some feedback quite asking about how this interacts with PG&E data. And as kind of mentioned, this is trying to integrate data that is SoCalGas specific, so we can have a better risk profile of our system and inform the mitigations that we leverage across our expansive service territory. It could also impact as inputs to our CAVA model. And I'll just stop there. Can we go to the next slide? This initiative is on community impact and energy conservation. So when we talk about this, I think at the center of it, it's pretty simple. It's about the importance of making sure our customers feel safe, informed, and supported when it comes to their energy use. So in terms of the identified need, we know that many of our customers, especially those in disadvantaged communities, don't necessarily have the tools to recognize when something is wrong, right? Families learn about unintended gas use or discover a leak maybe after the meter when their bill spikes. So this initiative is meant to, well, maybe let me pause there. So while we have already made progress in terms of leveraging our advanced meter data to be to detect certain types of leaks, we know that there's ways to, again, get better. And so the proposed solutions in this area are about trying to really make the system work for our people by leveraging the data sets like AM data, combining it with aerial methane mapping to improve detection sensitivity and help us detect real gas leaks with more accuracy, more reliably, reduce false positives in our AMI data, which will ultimately improve the safety of the system. So I think we're really building on foundations of research and development, right, to kind of progress even further in a way that we haven't previously. through the improved accuracy, I think this will reduce unnecessary costs, and it will give our customers clear visibility into their own energy use as we advance the technologies. Next slide. The feedback here was to build on prior research and not necessarily duplicate it. And I hopefully tried to highlight how we're trying to take different types of data sets, integrate it so that we can identify leaks and things that might impact our customers more quickly. Can we go to the next slide? So the next initiative is system design and materials. This is about modernizing our gas infrastructure. So today we have developed probabilistic future modeling for metal pipelines, but we haven't done this for necessarily our plastic pipelines. We have different ways to assess wall barrier integrity, but we can, I think we still lack validations that we would like to perform. This initiative is about trying to understand how repair methods can extend asset life. It's about trying to understand how emerging technologies can offer protection measures such as breakaway fittings, which offer promise but have not been fully evaluated. So the proposed solutions, and this is again focusing on trying to develop our lifetime prediction models on the plastic side through field sampling and aging data. We want to strengthen our wall barrier risk models. We want to better understand non-traditional repair methods and evaluate how they might be something that can be further deployed. We want to advance protective technologies like the breakaway fittings through more in-depth testing. This would improve safety and failure prevention. It would extend the asset life of our system. That would in turn reduce capital and replacement costs for our repairs. Next slide.
Paul, I apologize. I'm just going to hop in really quick and just let you know you have about 3 minutes left.
Okay, thanks, Emma. So why don't we go to the next slide as well? So this is about RNG infrastructure optimization. This initiative focuses on trying to optimize RNG infrastructure. Right now, we know that interconnections are expensive. There's limited injection points. There's system-related cost drivers that need to be lowered. So the goal of this initiative is to focus on those interconnection costs, operational practices, and overall timelines that can maybe through optimized or standardized designs by potentially considering reverse flow mechanisms, trying to better understand compression cost drivers so that we can ultimately have more RNG that flows onto our system. Next slide. This is aligned with feedback that we received to really be focusing on the interconnection cost piece. So we're really taking into account the stakeholder feedback that we've received. Next slide. This initiative focuses on low carbon fuel technologies, which is really about the supply of low carbon fuels. This is about getting more supply online, having it be at lower costs, trying to figure out ways to improve the processing of different types of feedstock. And this is focused really exclusively on RNG. So one thing based off stakeholder feedback is that we're really, we are not proposing to work on hydrogen currently. We're really focusing on the RNG aspect. Next slide. I think we go to the next one as well. So for the energy reliability and resilience, and I think I have 2 more initiatives, so I'm going very quickly now, hopefully not too fast. But when we think about energy reliability and resilience, this is about developing diverse, affordable solutions that really give customers access to have low carbon power generation to meet their needs, just to meet their reliability and resiliency needs. So we're trying to create new products and push the boundaries of technology so that whether it's through AI, whether it's through looking at the different types of control systems, whether it be developing and creating point of use decarbonization technologies, these are areas that will help after the meter or our customers really decarbonize their operations. Next slide. In terms of overlap, this doesn't, we don't think it really overlaps with Epic, but complementary to Epic, that this is really targeting, again, on the power generation side to help our customers have solutions for them. Next slide. This is the last initiative. It's the Building and Facility Systems Initiative, which is really focused on reducing the emissions associated with commercial and industrial buildings and facilities through innovation. While we've come a long way with building envelopes, the need for progress remains. So this is going to be focusing on novel envelope technologies, again, the use of AI, and understanding that each customer is unique. So while we want to figure out what's the boundaries of standardization, we also have to solutions that are tailored to specific end use cases. So we have solutions that are going to be looking at, again, envelope technology, the use of more integrated data, and again, trying to figure out with systems that are unique to each customer, how can we potentially reduce their emissions from boilers or water heaters, their cooking appliances, etc. Next slide. So there was some feedback about really trying to understand how this overlaps with statewide priorities to reduce gas system reliance and prioritize electrification. Our approach is really to reduce demand via envelopes and controls. This enables improved load flexibility and supports strategic, equitable electrification where there may be certain constraints and barriers. Next slide. This is some contact information. I run the decarbonization theme. Mike Morgando runs the gas system integrity side. I went long on that because I was learning more about it as well. So I was very curious to be able to articulate those things. So apologies there. Maybe if I kind of close, for any healthy organization, RD&D is really important for progress, and SoCalGas is no different. Our RD&D provides a direct pathway to safer, more reliable, and affordable energy system that will deliver increasingly low carbon fuels to reduce GHG emissions and improve air quality both now and into the future. Thank you very much. And I will pass it to Aaron from PG&E. I feel like everyone needs a break. There's a lot of talking here, but thanks for listening.
Next, please. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity once again to speak with the Disadvantaged Community Advisory Group. I have 14 slides, so we will be on time. I'm Aaron Resendez. I'll provide, like the other administrators, a high-level walkthrough of PG&E's proposed 2026 gas RD&D initiatives. Our focus on the problems we're trying to solve, why they matter for customers, and how this work is intended to reduce risk and costs rather than extend the gas system. I'll also explain how feedback both from the Public Utilities Commission as well as the public shape both what we're proposing as well as what we chose not to pursue. Next. I'm going to move quickly through this next slide since it's really designed to provide some context. The 26 plan focuses on near-term safety, reliability, and climate-driven risks on the existing gas system. A key theme is improving decision quality data, so decisions are based on evidence. Across all these initiatives, moving over to the right, we were intentional about affordability and uneven cost burdens on certain communities. Next. This slide should look very familiar. It lays out our 2026 plan budget of $7.4 million, excluding the administration costs, which are also noted on the slide. About 70% of the funding supports gas system integrity work, while about 30% supports decarbonization research through our Clean Fuels Integration Initiative. And this reflects feedback to prioritize near-term risk reduction and avoid research that would prolong or reinforce legacy gas systems. Next. Thank you. Climate-driven and natural ground movement and extreme conditions are increasing risks to certain gas assets. Existing monitoring does not always provide warnings early enough to prevent disruptive events. This initiative focuses on validating monitoring approaches that actually work in real field conditions. The intent is earlier identification and better prioritization so mitigation happens before emergencies occur. That can reduce avoidable repair costs, shorten disruptions to customers, and lower impacts on nearby communities. Next. Now we shaped this based on the feedback that we received. Specifically, the CPUC had emphasized, as was stated before, that starting with a clear problem statement rather than a preferred technology is the priority. And that feedback pushed us to frame this work around reducing risk and disruption, not deploying tools, for example, for their own sake. The result is research focused on decision usefulness and data collection, as well as early warning. Next. Integrity assessments can be costly and disruptive, especially in complex and hard to access areas. Traditional approaches often require repeated field visits and unnecessary and costly excavation. This initiative focuses on validating lower disruptive ways to understand the condition of our assets, meaning the pipelines themselves. Another key driver is reducing uncertainty about where pipelines are located. And that's especially true in difficult environments or environmentally sensitive environments. The intended outcome is fewer repeat visits, lower costs, and less disruption to our customers. Next. As was stated a little bit earlier, the CPUC really emphasized that research should start with the problem. Public feedback questioned how this work differs from routine utility maintenance. In response, this initiative is structured around field validation and transferable learning. The goal is to inform future decisions, not to fund ongoing operations or lock us into any particular approach. Next. And you'll notice the theme. Leak detection and localization can be time and labor intensive, which increases costs, and when we need to take a customer out of service, may actually extend that disruption. So new technologies, detection technologies are emerging, but they need validation under real operating conditions. Faster localization can reduce repeat field visits, as well as shorten the time to repair, hence reducing the time of that disruption. This initiative focuses on validating detection approaches that can scale responsibly. The outcome we're aiming for is fewer repeat visits, faster repairs, and lower total costs. Next. To highlight some of the feedback that we received, the CPUC emphasized cost effectiveness and measurement quality. Public feedback stressed that leak reduction remains critical for both affordability and continued emissions reductions, particularly for communities that are most impacted. We incorporated this feedback by keeping advanced leak detection and repair as a core integrity investment. The work is framed around scalable validation so leak reduction efforts are effective without unnecessary spending. Next. So as emissions are reduced, what remains becomes harder to target without better data. Decisions about next steps depend on accurate and comparable measurements. This initiative focuses on validating measurement approaches in real field conditions. The goal is to target the highest value reductions and avoid low yield activity. That supports affordability by reducing wasted effort and unnecessary costs. Next. This summarizes the feedback that we received. The CPUC emphasized again, as it has before, clear problem framing and credible measurement. Public feedback raised concerns about shifting resources away from emissions reductions. We have addressed that by focusing this work on targeting and decision quality. The intent is to make emissions reductions effort more focused, more transparent, and more cost effective. Next. And this is our last initiative. Renewable natural gas projects can be costly and time consuming to interconnect. Different feedstock can introduce different trace constituents that affect system performance. This focuses on near-term practical work to reduce interconnection costs and uncertainty. That includes validating more standardized and potential modular interconnection approaches. It also includes better measurements so gas quality risks are understood as well as managed. Next. Really important here. CPUC indicated that hydrogen blending in the pipelines is not supported. Therefore, we have removed hydrogen research from our future plans. Rather, the CPUC indicated that RNG is the priority focus. In addition, during the EPIC 5 workshop in December of 2025, both PG&E and the CEC proposed geothermal initiatives. So PG&E took the proactive approach of removing that initiative from any of its future plans to let the CEC be able to fund that type of research, hence removing potential duplication efforts. Public feedback raised equity and public health concerns related to RNG infrastructure, while other comments expressed support for RNG when costs and impacts are well controlled. In response, we kept this work tightly scoped to cost reduction and to monitoring. And before I wrap up, I want to introduce just the PG&E team. I think we lost the share from, and wanted to just introduce them real briefly. Our role is to ensure research produces clear learning that supports future decisions. And I really would like to thank the DACAG members for their time today and their attention. And we welcome your guidance, particularly on affordability, impacts, and community concerns. And with that, I will pass it back to Emma.
Thank you. I think we just included one more slide at the end to kind of help frame some of the potential feedback from the DACAG. Again, this initiative criteria and just reiterating a couple of overarching themes, but we welcome any questions or comments, and thank you so much again.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentations and your time. We do appreciate it. Looks like we have a number of different feedback and discussion themes to consider here. So I will turn it over to my fellow members for questions and discussion. Elena.
I'll jump in if no one else will. I was fortunate to be part of the DACAG SME that spoke with the CEC, and I appreciate the incorporation of some of my concerns around both, I think, nuclear and reverse methanation, and the consideration of other technologies rather than being solely focused on those. So thank you. I had a couple of comments that I wanted to direct for Paul and Phil. Thank you for your presentations. I think I wanted to reiterate what looked like some of the feedback perhaps from other participants as well about the focus on RNG as a potential decarbonization mechanism. I think across the board, we're concerned about some of the sort of public health and environmental impacts of using RNG, and would prefer, or at least I would prefer, and I don't want to speak for everyone here, that some of that funding go towards research that can provide meaningful decarbonization and electrification when possible. However, if you are going to be looking at RNG, I would strongly encourage that advanced methane leakage technology that you're trying to deploy, that you apply that to the RNG production processing and integration system so that we can get meaningful data on what that looks like, as well as on what the co-pollutant impacts might be associated with any of that methane leakage throughout RNG production processing and integration. Thank you.
Thanks, Elena.
And I just will respond real quick. Thanks, Elena, for the feedback. Yeah, I think all worth noting and trying to incorporate, especially if we're developing technologies in other places. A leak, whether it's RNG or whether it's natural gas, is still a leak that we want to prevent. So I appreciate the feedback.
Do you have another comment, Elena? No, just still have your hand up.
Nope, sorry.
All good. Anyone else? Okay.
I just wanted to ask, do we publish public data about leaks? Do we publish public data about gas system leaks?
Aaron or Paul, did you hear that? I'm not sure if you're able to speak to either of those.
Sorry, I started to do the let me go search. But yeah, we actually have a map online that shows where our leaks are. I won't speak for SoCal Gas, but I believe it was a requirement for all the IOUs to publish online, publicly accessible, that kind of data. I can make sure that Emma gets that information so she can forward it to DACAG. Happy to do so. Great question.
Thank you.
I have another comment if I can jump in. I can't see if anyone else's hand is up. But I would love to suggest a sort of stronger tie-in here when looking at potential pipeline repairs to opportunities for electrification. So throughout the sort of advanced leak detection research, when that is being tied into more rapid repairs, that is actually considered always to be a slightly broader scope. Maybe rapid repairs or maybe rapid electrification. And that is another pathway that is prioritized when possible, rather than sinking cost into repair of something that might ultimately become a stranded asset.
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, thanks, Paul, for the presentation. A lot of information to process here, so was kind of going back and re-looking at some of the slides. But maybe a broader question, as I was looking at these slides and then looking specifically on the stakeholder feedback sections, right? And I'm just curious, like that is primarily just our SME group that you're providing like information on, or was there other folks that were also engaged in it to like receive some of that initial feedback on what you're proposing here?
I think that was for me, Roman, right?
Well, most of you,
and
I think all presentations have that stakeholder feedback section. So I'm just curious.
Yes, exactly. That was so part of the process leading up to these proposals was that the administrators presented the kind of early ideas to the CPUC subject matter experts. So those were representatives from Energy Division, Safety Policy Division, Safety and Enforcement Division, in a workshop with EPIC. The electric program investment charge. And they also did the public consultation via a coordinated workshop at the end of February. So that's some of the key feedback you'll see. And I know CEC also mentioned a previous round of, it sounded like more of like a focused DACAG group that I believe happened more in early fall.
Thank you.
May I add to that? Because I think that's a really important question as well. On February 27th, we actually held a collaborative joint public workshop, and we sent those invitations out to a variety of stakeholders. They also got sent out to the service list, right, through the PUC. We did have just ratepayers, I'm sorry, I'm using air quotes here, but we certainly want to make sure that members of the public are participating, and we did even receive some of those comments. So some of the comments in the PG&E slide were actually predicated on that workshop and the feedback that we received during that workshop.
Go ahead. Tonight, did you want to make a comment or have a question?
Yes, sorry, thank you. I just have a general question just to understand how the utilities prioritize their initiatives. Just want to know if any of these initiatives have to be approved by the CEC or CPUC before you study them or you implement them. I think because I'm just trying to understand when you were talking about hydrogen blending versus going now focusing more to do RNG, how do you decide that? Is just by these comments and feedbacks that you're getting, or do they get approved by the commissions? Thank you.
Yeah, I can touch on that. So part of the process, we refer to the two utilities and CEC as the administrators of their kind of own gas RD&D programs, but all three are administered under CPUC, where we review the investment plans that are proposed and we approve them via resolution before they're able to spend those funds. But they may be able to speak more to their kind of reasoning on the prioritization of certain initiatives over others.
Yeah. So I'll thanks Emma for that, and that's another good question. So what we do is our priorities are actually predicated on ongoing proceedings at the Public Utilities Commission. So when it comes to say hydrogen, the commission is still kind of weighing what those options are and hasn't come out as a formal policy on hydrogen. So we were directed to put that on pause, right? Where there is, a biomethane related proceeding or a proceeding on the future of the gas system, or even something that's occurring on the electric side that might have some crossover impacts on the gas system infrastructure, we may be asked to kind of seriously consider. But like Emma said, all of our plans are required to be submitted to the Public Utilities Commission, and it's her and that team that go through a rigorous process of evaluation before approving them to ensure that kind of alignment. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you. It's good to know that.
You're very welcome.
Commissioner Douglas, would you like to provide a comment?
I'm sorry, I am here, but I wasn't trying to speak. Did I miss a question?
No, you had just unmuted, and so I was wondering.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah,
no,
I lost control of the phone, but I am listening. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, folks, we're a little bit behind schedule and we still have quite a bit to cover. So I'm going to have us take a break until 3:15, get some water, and then we will come back. We will hopefully approve a letter. We'll talk about our priority areas, and we'll do some final closing updates and things like that. So I'll see you all at 3:15. Thank you.
Thank you.
Back on camera. And we will start moving into item 8. This is SB 100 non-energy impacts. This is a proposed comment letter we heard this presentation last week, and there are still some pieces that I think we're missing. And Elena had volunteered and did an excellent job putting together a letter. I'm going to turn it over to you, Elena, and just for the DACAG, let's see, I think we're going to share it. We've got to then do some public comment, and then we can approve. Just based on time, I'm going to hope that we don't have to do too much wordsmithing with this, and we can move to approval, but please do take the time to read it. Elena.
Thanks, Julia, and thanks to everyone on the DACAG. I hope some of you have had a chance to read this out of time because it is long and we probably can't go through all of it now. So I'm going to quickly walk through the contours of the letter, and then we can maybe jump into specific parts. And I know that there's at least one component where I would like to request additional feedback. So this is broadly responding to the SB 100 presentation that we received last month, including on the non-energy impacts analysis, sort of open up on the framing with some of the initial concerns, including the limited consideration of non-energy impacts, particularly at a granular scale, and the specific impacts that are included or not included, as well as some modeling concerns related in particular to the lack of use of distributed energy resources, which is one of the primary strategies I think many of us see to achieve many of those impacts. And also some reference back to some earlier DACAG comments from, I think even before my time at the DACAG, or maybe when I just started. So going down, it's broken into a few different components. The first is looking specifically at process, suggesting that the DACAG would like to have an opportunity to provide early, regular, and meaningful input into the development of non-energy impact modeling metrics, rather than sort of a post hoc commentary as we currently are doing. And particularly, I'd also like collective feedback from everyone on broader outreach education, including tribal consultation here. So if you have thoughts on how to improve this language, which I tried to reflect from the comments that we heard last time, but is pretty brief, I think this would definitely benefit from some additional editing and review. In the second component, we go through modeling assumptions. Can we scroll down a little bit? The first is the lack of actively using distributed energy resources as a means of meeting SB 100 targets. There's a default scenario of DER adoption, but there isn't an opportunity to increase DER adoption if it can achieve greater affordability or other non-energy benefits. This also goes into trying to suggest that we should have consideration of front of the meter distributed energy resources, including urban, community solar, warehouses, brownfields, other things like that that are currently not being included, and which we also discussed in the DACAG meeting last time around. Going down a little bit. From there, so this is the front of the meter distributed energy resources. And then some brief discussion of hydrogen and carbon capture and storage. I actually honestly could not tell, including from the additional materials that were online, the degree to which hydrogen and carbon capture and storage are being included in the modeling, but wanted to highlight some of the concerns that the DACAG has brought up in the past in terms of combustion resources and co-pollutants associated with both of these, as well as upstream methane leakage and life cycle impacts of both resources. Next. From here, we moved on to the non-energy impacts. We received the presentations on land use impacts and public health and air quality. And so within this section, I included a few suggestions for land use impacts to include some more granularity so we could get some understanding of what subset of that potential area that could be used, might be tribal lands, might be brownfields, might be other kinds of useful subsets that we could use for decision making, even though this isn't a citing exercise, but to sort of better inform what the potential is on each of those land use types. And then some suggestions for the public health modeling to be done at a more granular scale. Certainly the assumptions for the public health modeling are using a tool that is done at the county level. It'd be great to know what those assumptions are at the county level, the outputs at the county level, and ideally at a more granular scale as well. And then the last component here is to suggest, and I think we can continue to scroll down on the screen, the inclusion of additional non-energy impacts that have been suggested by other commenters as well as by the Disadvantaged Communities Advisor Group, and that the previous SB 100 report suggested would be good for inclusion and assessment, including resilience, workforce, economic and affordability benefits, and water supply and quality. So that's broadly it. And any additional suggestions, feedback, language modifications, please add them here.
That's great, Elena. Thank you so much. Let's do the member comment, and then we'll come back to the members. I'm sorry. Let's do the public comment. Looks like we have to do that.
Thank you, Julia. The DACAG now welcomes public comment on item 8. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and 1 speaker per organization. We'll show a timer on the screen and we'll alert you when your time is up. All comments will become part of the public record. Please let us know if you would like to make a comment so we can call on you. For those online, please use the raise hand feature that looks like an open palm. For those joining by phone, press *3 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute. Seeing no raised hands, I will pass it back.
Great, thank you. Elena, do you want to highlight the specific area that you wanted additional feedback on for us one more time?
Yeah, on the first section 1 process, under in particular tribal consultations on process 1.2, but that section more broadly. And actually, this is in light of something that happened earlier. I think in this section, I asked for a report back of how suggestions were used or not used, so we could better understand how our feedback is or isn't being utilized. And someone mentioned in one of the presentations earlier that the tribal consultation was actually private. And so that language maybe should be updated appropriately, but there may be more here as well.
Okay, hearing none.
Looks like Councilman Vasquez has his hand raised.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I'm not able to see everyone. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I know that consultation, I guess tribe to tribe consultation is a little different. So that kind of has its own, I guess, thing for tribes in order to, like in a closed door setting. But I think overall, tribal roundtable or something like that would be more appropriate to kind of get a broader group of folks together. And then if there's something that jumps to kind of a more of a concern to a tribal government, it's them individually interacting. So I don't know, something like a roundtable discussion with, I guess a broad range of tribes. I'm trying to figure out how to formulate that into this letter. Of course, I know it's kind of weird, but yeah, that's a good question. Thank you for bringing this up. And I think even having tribes even included in this is good, as well as some of those aspects as far as, I know there's another part you were jumping off into. My mind started running in that direction, as well as some of the land use projects when they refer to whether it's tribal territory or tribal trust land. Those are a different thing as well. So I just want to bring that to the forefront. But when we get to that section, I know we're kind of short on time, so I want to make sure we don't miss a deadline to push this thing out. But I appreciate all the hard work on this. Honestly, it's thank you very much. It's awesome.
Perhaps in this section we can say
Where appropriate, maybe just like
yeah, where appropriate. Yeah, exactly.
Might
Where
be-
appropriate or as desired or something like that in terms of the report back. And so in that 1.2, as well as a report back where appropriate of how this outreach engagement influences decisions, so that if it is not appropriate, that it's not included. I think that sounds great. Just a modifier there.
Thanks, Chris. You're like the voice, man. Joe.
I got your back. I got your back.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, I
Appreciate
was
that.
just
Thank
going to
you.
thank you, Elaine, for all your work that you put into reflecting everybody's feedback so well. I think it's a great draft, and what a flex to have a footnote of yourself in the letter. So hats off.
As
Let the
easier than
record
looking
show
at somewhere
you
else.
hate
Yeah.
Definitely.
Is there, so I don't know if there's any other section here that folks want to add comments, ask about, or jump into.
I think I can jump in. Well, first of all, Elena, I just want to say thank you for drafting this letter. It's a long, I'm sure it took your time drafting it, and it's an excellent letter. So again, kudos to you for working on this. And especially, I'm really excited about you including or highlighting the benefits of DER, whether it's front of the meter or behind the meter, and how they're not being considered. I think the way, as an active resource, I think they've been considered, I think, load reducers rather than active resources, right? In SB 100.
Yeah, it's just as a load modifier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I believe, I don't know what the rest of committee members think, but I personally believe that integrating, DER into planning, it could actually lower costs and then reduces infrastructure costs needs, and then also deliver, broader community benefits. So I think somehow I feel like policy seems to be shifting away from DER lately. So you highlighting it and here is just an important addition. So thank you.
Great, I'm glad. Is there anything else you'd like to add on that point in here?
No, I think it's
got it.
Very good. I think it's just like the benefit part for communities and all that stuff is also, I know you mentioned a lot of, resiliency as benefit, but economic benefit also, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Workforce development, I mean, business development, all those things are so important and we can't overlook those. So
Yeah,
thank
for
you.
sure.
I have no more to add to it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else from others? Yeah, I'm going to suggest that we move this to a vote. Yeah, do we have a motion to approve this letter?
So moved.
Thank you, Sanai.
Second.
Do I have a second? Who was that? Sarah? Chelsea, thank you. Okay. We will take a roll call vote, starting with Chelsea.
Aye.
Thank you, Chris.
Aye.
Thank you, Elena.
Aye.
Thank you, Fred.
Aye.
Thank you, Jem.
Aye.
Julia, aye. Roman.
Aye.
Well, Sarah.
Aye.
Welcome, Sanait.
Aye.
Thank you, Councilmember Vasquez.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes, and also every single one of us is here.
That is really wonderful. Thank you all so much for being here and being so engaged. Great. So that is a unanimous approval. Can someone please remind me what happens with this letter next? Who submits
Hi,
it?
this is Dorothy from the C. Oh yeah, sorry. Dorothy from the CEC. So as we as y'all discuss or we move on to items, I'm gonna docket this right now into the appropriate docket, and staff is eagerly awaiting it. So
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Very much
no,
appreciate
thank
it.
you. Yeah.
Okay, item 9, priority areas. I am going to turn this over to Chris.
Thanks, y'all. Do we need to make space for any priority area updates since our last meeting? Otherwise, I have some consolidated priority areas to share with folks.
Let's move into
Start there.
that, and since the updates can, yeah. Right.
Okay. I think I'm able to share my screen. Okay. Can folks see this? Okay. Based on your feedback, what I did was I pulled all of our 2024 DACAG equity framework equity considerations in and added tribal nations. So now they all sort of will intersect with our priority areas one for one as they exist in the 2024 DACAG equity framework. So I think that's one way of keeping it clean. What it did mean though is because these cross-cutting areas were also discrete topics that we had within the priority areas themselves. I've tried to the extent it made sense, sort of deduplicate, if that makes sense. So our cross-cutting equity consideration should always be tribes, non-energy benefits, affordability, access, outreach, and education, community engagement, health and safety, financial benefits and economic development, workforce development, consumer protection, and metrics evaluation and accountability. Okay, my kids are home, so Pearl wants that. Yeah. Right on time. Thanks, Pearl. They should all intersect with our priority areas, and we're down to 5. So access, rates, and disconnections. And I'll take a moment to actually go through the bullets of what's covered here to just gut check that this is the grouping we want to have. So access to electricity service, electricity affordability, cost of capital and rate design, wildfire related rate impacts, bill assistance, energy programs, arrearages, disconnections, and shut-off protections. And then within our second grouping for electricity generation, transmission, distribution, so we have distribution transmission planning, including siting, generation planning, including siting, infrastructure maintenance and wildfire mitigation, new load impacts such as data centers, distributed energy resources, including customer generation programs, interconnection, system reliability and resiliency, and public safety power shutoffs. Then our third category is sort of clean transportation focus, transportation, electrification, zero emission mobility, EV adoption, passenger vehicle charging infrastructure, medium and heavy duty charging infrastructure, public transit, electric fleets. And under our fourth category, building and industrial decarbonization and clean fuels, we have building electrification decarbonization, including appliance fuel switching electrification and energy efficiency programs, gas transition planning, industrial decarbonization, hydrogen fueling infrastructure and fleets. And finally, long-term planning, SB 100 and SB 350 implementation, hyper, offshore wind, Lithium Valley, long-term gas system planning, smart grids and broadband infrastructure, and equitable access to future energy services. Yeah, we've been through many rounds of feedback on this at this point. as folks will have heard my framing several times before, this is in some parts cosmetic. We're not de-emphasizing anything that the DACAG had previously committed to looking at. We just are cleaning up sort of our priority areas and making sure that we're considering all the relevant intersections while hopefully also making it easier to hone in on priority metrics in each area, and also being more intentional about organizing our agenda around DACAG priorities. So that's been the intent here. But yeah, I'd love to incorporate any final feedback here live so that we can seal the deal on this thing once and for all. I don't know. It changed my view entirely, and now I can't see anybody. So, yeah, do y'all have any feedback?
I think we have to go to public comment first. Chris, I do want to thank you for doing all of the heavy lifting with this. This is looking much more clean and clear to me, and I think it provides really good guidance. But before we talk about it and hopefully move for approval, let's open it up for public comment.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris and Julia. The DACAG now welcomes public comment on item 9. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and 1 speaker per organization. We'll show a timer on the screen and we'll alert you when your time is up. All comments will become part of the public record. Please let us know if you would like to make a comment so we can call on you. For those online, please use the raise hand feature that looks like an open palm. For those joining by phone, press *3 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute. And if there's anyone in the room who wants to make a comment, please raise your hand. So, going to WebEx. I do not see any raised hands here or in the room. Back to y'all.
Thanks, Laura. Okay, I'd like to turn it over to DACAG members for limited discussion and questions. And I think if agency staff and leadership have any recommendations, we can also take those at this time. Roman.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for all your hard work in updating this priority areas document. I really have no feedback. I think it really encompasses everything, all the conversations that at least I've been a part of over these last few months, right? And trying to update these priority areas, and encompasses, I think, all the areas that we want to continue to engage on. So yeah, just wanted to provide you some kudos in putting all this together, because I know definitely was not easy after all the feedback that we provided over the last few months. So yeah, thank you so much for all this work, Chris.
I fully agree. Councilmember.
Yeah, I'll just jump on that as well. Thank you very much, Chris, for putting this together. I don't know if there was a lot of dialogue on this. I'm just kidding. There was a lot of dialogue on this. Everybody, I know everybody, the importance to all these different things for all these communities out there, and I know all of your participations definitely needed in any and all areas that you'd like to jump in, as I will as well. So, with that, could I make a motion to accept this, or are we waiting for more feedback?
I think Commissioner Gallardo has her hand up.
Okay.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you. I had a couple questions. One, there's the last bullet, number 5, long-term planning. It says equitable access to future energy services. Could you explain what that is? I wasn't clear.
I think that was
Chris,
helped.
yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, Commissioner. Who was that piping up just now? I'm sorry. I think I interrupted somebody. I didn't see who
That
was
was
speaking.
me.
Oh, I
I
apologize.
think that was me, Chris. It was Commissioner.
Sorry, Commissioner. Were you going to add something?
I was just curious if someone could explain what that was referring to, the future energy services.
It seemed very general to me as well, and it was held over from a previous draft. So I didn't want to remove it in case it meant something to somebody else, but it's almost so general as to be meaningless without further context. Equitable access to future energy services. When I think about what that could mean in context to long-term planning, I don't know if there would be any future energy services not already captured somewhere else here, such as our generation, our DRs. So yeah, it doesn't feel like it adds value to me.
Okay, and I'm not advocating or suggesting that it be removed or modified. It was more out of curiosity to see what the priorities are for you all.
Yep.
And then
Thank you.
that's fine. You can keep it. I just especially if there's not a specific response here. But thank you, Chris. And then the second question was if we wanted to, like the Energy Commission, if we wanted to present to you all on geothermal specifically, where did you see that falling, if anywhere at all, in this priority list?
I think under priority area 2, bullet 2, so generation planning, including siting. So we that one pretty generic, and to me, this one was like our base load, or sort of like base load generation bullet.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you so much for explaining that. We are going to be focused on geothermal in the IPER, so I know that's another area where it could come through, but I'm grateful for you giving me some perspective there. And that bullet point you mentioned also makes sense. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah, I too just wanted to say thanks, Chris. That's a lot of hard work putting that together. Really appreciate it. And then also, while I've got the mic, I wanted to say welcome, Councilman Vasquez. Glad to see that DACAG is providing some tribal representation. Myself, I kind of came on because I think mostly because of my over 40 years of utility experience. And then it just so happened that I got on tribal council shortly after. So there was some tribal representation here, but really happy to have you on, and I'm glad we have some tribal perspective. So thank you, DACAG, and thank you, Chris.
Great, thank you all.
Oh,
Elena,
if
did
there
you
was
have
a
a final?
motion. Sorry, if there was a motion, I was going to second it. I don't know if it's not.
I think Elena's got a final comment, and then we will move to the motion.
Yeah. Again, also thank you, Chris. And I think I just wanted to say that last bullet point. I suspect that is related to ensuring that, future access to clean energy resources and opportunities to decarbonize and get off the gas system and things like that don't end up being inequitable in terms of secondary impacts of, let's say, people being left on gas infrastructure in 10 or 15 years and things like that. So I think that's important. Is that separate than anything else? I think that's sort of cross-cutting. I think it's just an important reminder to make sure that equity needs to be something not only in like thinking about current program impacts, but also long-term program impacts from an equitable design standpoint. So I'm not sure we need that bullet point. I think that's just a sort of through running necessity for many of those other programs.
Apologies, Elena. Could you say that again? Which bullet? So I can capture that.
The one Commissioner Gallardo mentioned at the very end of
That one.
everything.
Yeah, the very last one under long-term planning. There are at least a couple more instances throughout where we have sort of cross-cutting equity considerations that are also already reflected in the priority areas. For example, the very first one is electric service access. However, our fourth cross-cutting area is access. So you could go farther and sort of be duplicating these, but I also think it's probably fine if some important ones are double clicked here and there.
Yeah. I would encourage us to leave the list as is. I would encourage us to consider this to be guidance rather than, you know, a rule or regulation. If there are topics that come up within the broader categories, you know, that aren't listed here, that's okay. If other things feel really pressing and specifically related to the DACAG's work, I think they can still be brought to us. This just helps sort of guide and focus and prioritize what gets brought to us. And through that lens, I think this is entirely appropriate. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right, that sounded like Elena and Chris.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, Chelsea, roll call.
I think Chelsea had to leave.
Oh, Chelsea left. Okay, Chelsea is not here. Chris.
Aye.
Elena.
Aye.
Fred.
Aye.
Jem.
Aye.
Julia. Aye. Roman.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
The Knight.
Aye.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Aye.
That item passes. We have our 2026 priorities. Thank you again to everyone who contributed, and a special thank you to Chris. Really appreciate it. Item 10 is the Low Income Oversight Board. Roman, any updates before I get into a couple things?
No updates on my end.
Great. It does look like there is a Q1 2026 LIOB meeting on Thursday, March 26th from 9 to 3 in Palm Springs. Anyone planning to attend that and hoping to report back to the DACAG? I will note that the LIOB released some recommendations regarding the CPUC scoping memo for the next CARE FARA ESA program cycle proceeding, and I believe they're taking comments at that 326 meeting. So if you, if anyone is interested in reviewing that, it is available. And if anyone wants to make comments on their own behalf or their organization's behalf, that opportunity is there. Anything else on the LIOB? Thank you. That brings us to agency announcements, and I will turn it over to the CEC.
Thank you, Julia. Dorothy Murmy here with the CEC. There's a number of items that are going to be coming to all of you through the quote unquote newsletter. It's going to come in on Monday. And just as a note for folks who may not be familiar, this is just accumulation of information that's publicly available, but it's just curated for DACAG members, may be relevant to their priorities, and we will try and reflect it to the current priorities. So thank you so much for that. And then there is, wanted to highlight the Clean Energy Hall of Fame Awards. So folks may be familiar, let me share a screen here because I can. Oh, there we go. So folks may be familiar with the Clean Energy Hall of Fame Awards. So where the nominations are open now. And so folks can go in. These are energy champions, a variety of different award categories, from energy champions, youth, tribal, and lifetime achievement. And so definitely there's so many people who contribute to bringing us closer and closer to our clean energy future. So folks can go into this website. I'm going to put the link on the page and put in information of someone you'd like to nominate. So outside of that, I will, do you have anything to add, Commissioner Gallardo?
I'll add to the Clean Energy Hall of Fame promotion here that we often, unfortunately, do not have enough youth game changer nominations. And we know that there are a lot of youth out there doing really good work and stepping up, stepping in, inspiring everybody. And we would love to be able to highlight them and give them an award. The other benefit of the Youth Game Changer Award has been that they've been able to also get fellowships at the Energy Commission. It has happened to work out. And so, that's another opportunity. And we've been told from the winners of the Youth Game Changer Award that the exposure and the connections that are created through the Hall of Fame are really helpful to them. So if you do know of any youth who are doing, clean energy type of work, it could be an array of formats, different, they could be doing different things. Please nominate them. We would love to get more, a bigger pool of nominees in that category in particular. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.
And that's it for us.
Great, thank you for those updates. CPUC, please.
Hello, this is Zara Jamshed with the CPUC. Dorothy, can you please put that? Yeah. So first, just wanted to start out with a public solicitation for the Environmental Justice Advisory Committee at the California Air Resources Board, or CARB. They're seeking 11 individuals to make up their EJAC. They advise CARB in their scoping plan and implementation of Assembly Bill 32, which requires that the EJAC be comprised of representatives from communities in the state with the most significant exposure to air pollution, including but not limited to communities with minority populations and low-income populations, or both. And so individuals with environmental justice, equity, and community advocacy are encouraged to apply. And the deadline for that is April 21st at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And then there's you can visit the CARB website to learn more about that opportunity. Next, I'm going to talk about the California Climate Credit. Residential customers of PG&E, SCE, and SDG&E won't receive a climate credit automatically on their bill next month. The CPUC expects to release a proposed decision soon, aligning the distribution of the climate credit with Assembly Bill 12-1207 to give the climate credit out at high billed months. So this is the climate credit will be distributed in 2026. You will get your credits this year, just not in April. And so I'm happy to bring any updates about that to the DACAG. Like Julia mentioned, the Low Income Oversight Board is having their Q1 meeting on March 26th. There will be a community and tribal engagement presentation, as well as another disconnection and reconnections presentation from Paul Phillips, if you wanted to hear more about that. And then finally, I emailed folks about their Form 700 submissions. DACAG members are required every year to complete a Form 700 detailing financial conflicts of interest. Those are due March 27th. And if you have any questions about filling out your Form 700, please reach out to Vanessa Baldwin or myself. And that is all from CPUC.
Oh, Julia, if I could, I'd like to mention a couple other things, if that's all right.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's see. So there are pardon me. So in addition to the in the things I'm going to be sending you, I did want to highlight so folks can hear about this here. There is a fusion research and development innovation initiative public workshop coming up on April 2nd. Now, this is staff is going to be holding this virtual workshop to solicit industry and public input on fusion research topics to inform future funding initiatives under the Fusion Research and Development Innovation Initiative created by Senate Bill 80. This workshop will consist of technical presentations from fusion researchers and a workshop development presentation and panel to identify areas where a fusion R&D program can support advancing fusion energy in the state. Additionally, as fusion requires lithium, there are intersections between fusion and Lithium Valley with the potential to provide economic growth for the Salton Sea region. I know that's a area of interest, amongst other things. It is an area of interest for y'all, so I wanted to highlight that. You're gonna be seeing some other opportunities coming for outside of this one for modeling and monitoring for air quality and other public workshops. So just wanted to highlight that one. And then one more announcement. Okay.
All right, so it's my turn. I want to announce that we have a new public advisor that was recently appointed. That is Ryan Young, who has been serving as the interim public advisor at the California Energy Commission. We're so grateful that he's stepping up to be full-time public advisor. He's been doing an excellent job, and so we want to say congratulations to Ryan. And I don't know if I know he's shy. He might want to say a couple words here. Ryan, if you're there.
Thanks so much, Commissioner. I want to start by obviously thanking the governor for his trust with this position and his appointment. It's a great honor to me, my family, and my community to be able to serve in this way. Those of you that have known me for many years know that this is closely aligned with my values and priorities and really my life's work. And so it's truly something special that I get to serve in this way. And obviously I'll continue to support all of you and thank you for your individual support. Many of you shot me notes and I appreciate that. Let's keep working towards our collective future, one that works for all of us. Thank you so much.
That is the best news, Ryan. We couldn't be happier for you. You know, I'm a huge fan, so excellent choice.
Congratulations, Ryan. Let us know when the party is.
Thank you. We'll do.
Congrats, Ryan. And where the party is, and for sure, and where at. A better question. No, congrats, Ryan. Really well deserved.
Thank you, Cardinal. Thanks, everybody.
I think, and with that, that's it for us. Yeah, we're super excited, but we're gonna give the mic back to you, Julia. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think Fred had something and then Zara had one more item.
Yeah, I just want to say congrats, Ryan. Also, but also I had a question on the CARB advisory group of the 11. Is there a designated tribal representative of that 11, or should we just tell people to apply? Just, either way, I'll promote it no matter what.
I'll have to look into that. I can follow up with you.
I don't know
Thank
if they
you.
have designated spots, but I know there has traditionally been at least one tribal representative.
I wanted to make one last announcement. We are still in the process of our recruitment process for DACAG members. We are continuing interviews and hope to have new members by May. We've asked departing members if they're able to stay on for one more month, and they've graciously said yes. So we are going to make sure to have a celebration and appreciations for departing members, Julia, Chelsea, and Fred, at our next meeting. And then hope to welcome new members in May.
Thank you for that update. Great. Okay. For item 12, I have a number of different things flagged for our next meeting. I think there was a request for a DACAG support letter, which I'm happy to take on. It sounds like we'd like to hear what happens with Joaquin Castillejos and the city of Bloomington and the response from the CPUC to that. We're hoping to do a letter regarding the disconnections and areages that Chris, Elena, and Roman volunteered to work on. I think we need to assign SMEs to priority areas as well. And then there's a number of different things we've been tracking and flagging for future agenda items. Is there anything anyone wants to mention here that I might have missed? Make sure we get it either on the April agenda or a future agenda.
Just noting, I think Councilman Vasquez also wanted to work on the letter.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Council member? Is it council member? Sorry.
Is that 4 people and is that allowed?
4 is allowed,
4 is allowed.
up to 5, and then it becomes, yeah, something
You think
else
I
after
know
that.
that by now. Okay, cool. Excellent.
Oh no,
Thank you
you're
all
good.
for
Yeah.
Okay, and please, if you cannot attend a meeting, please reach out to Dorothy and Zara in advance. You can let them know as far in advance as you want. Item 13 is public comments. I will turn it back over to you, Zara.
Thank you, Julia. This public comment period is an opportunity for attendees to provide comments regarding any matters related to the DACAG or today's agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and 1 speaker per organization. We'll show a timer on the screen and we'll alert you when your time is up. All comments will become part of the public record. Please let us know if you would like to make a comment so we can call on you. For those online, please use the raise hand feature that looks like an open palm. For those joining by phone, press *3 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute. Checking WebEx. I do not see any raised hands. So, back to you, Julia.
Thank you. With that, we can adjourn. Our next meeting is Friday, April 17th. Looking forward to seeing you all then. It is 4:05. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all. You have a good one.
You too.